Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up,
how are you
not
doing?
down.
Welcome to the
This
Situation
is
Room.
It's
the 2nd day of March 2021, and we are happy to start the first Tuesday of March. City Muga.
Eric Latif.
How are you?
And Ndu Oko. Mm-hmm. I'm very well, thank you.
Very good.
Na wewe?
Mimi niko salama kabisa.
Asante sana.
Nashukuru Maulana.
Nashukuru yeye.
Mwenyezi Mungu. Maulana. Almighty.
Oh, okay.
God.
So what's Mfalme?
King.
King. That, of course, you need to understand that when the Reverend Son of the Most High King is talking to you, you are now referring to you, sister. You must speak to him
reverently.
Bated breath.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
That's how you want to be addressed.
Not this thing of Eric, Sasa.
Do you people know the way you talk to me?
Yes, with maximum respect.
In fact, I'm going to be walking around with a recorder, and then one day I'm going to come and play it. The way you two of you.
Maximum respect, complete, utter, total.
Okay. All right.
Are you okay, Ndu?
Me? I'm fine, thank you. Good morning.
Do you hear things that have not been done or
Sorry?
said?
No, I don't.
You hear different.
No.
You know, the direction you've taken, Eric, is a bit tricky. This early in the morning when somebody's awake and they're hearing voices that nobody else is hearing. You know, that's your domain. You are the one who's allowed to hear those voices.
Who, the Reverend?
Yes.
Oh. Divine conversation.
Yes, the rest of us, we haven't
You
done
listen to the message.
Okay. So what's the message?
Welcome to the show, everybody, and we are happy to have you on the show today. So vaccines are arriving tonight. It's going to be a big day. Vaccines, dancers at the airport.
Dancing in the vaccine. Okay, sorry.
Dancers to welcome the vaccine.
Oh, okay.
It's a big deal.
Sorry.
Finally, the promise. This is just akin to crossing over the River Jordan.
Oh, no. This isn't akin to crossing the River Jordan. This is akin to approaching the banks of the river.
Not yet,
Though, there is some serious silver lining with delays, whether they are planned or not. Because the longer you take in actually administering the vaccine, or any vaccine for that matter, the more knowledge you acquire. Because as other people get vaccinated, that process is also a data gathering process. So you get to understand and know things that you probably didn't know before. So it isn't as though they aren't positives in that whole scenario. They are positives.
There are very many positives.
Yes, they are.
Okay. We'll have a conversation about that shortly. I also will be talking about, so we'll have the conversation on what to expect in this vaccine rollout. Dr. Masikori will be joining us at 9 a.m. to give us the lowdown. So from here, we're in Kitengela. So how does one apply? So who's getting the first jab? Who gets the second jab? When do mwananchi wa kawaida expect to get their jabs? Is it going to be free, 100% free? Are you going to be chucking some cash a little bit? All that. We'll also have a conversation about women representation in boards of organizations, especially companies. Yeah, how many companies have women as board members, board directors? And if you talk about the entire principle in the Constitution of having at least proper gender balance in representation, how many companies can say that they have been able to actually tap into the talented women in various fields to sit on their boards to advise them? And those that have been able to actually get women on their boards, what's the experience? Has there been, actual difference in terms of how the board is then thinking and looking at things? All that is a conversation we'll have. We will revisit the conversation about schools and children and corporal punishment. The CS for Education, Magoha, has said, you know what, maybe we should have that conversation again. Revisit and reintroduce corporal punishment. So let's have that conversation. Let's start with COVID.
All right.
Vaccines all over.
Everywhere.
Everywhere is vaccine. Just turn around and get jabbed.
Wouldn't it be great if that was that way? All right. So we know that the COVID-19 vaccine is supposed to land a few minutes to or after midnight tonight. And so in detail of exactly how that's going to happen, yes, as you said, we'll be having that conversation later. But finally, yes, maybe a few months later than expected, but going to arrive in the country tonight. That's as far as what is happening in Kenya. We saw that now the prevalence rate in Kenya has now gone to 9%, right? It's double that which it was 3.5 months ago. So we're seeing more and more cases of COVID-19 in the country. Let's just look at the numbers that are being reported or recorded in Kenya right now. So globally, we have 114 million cases. If we look at Kenya specifically and what has been recorded, maybe sometimes we tend to forget what exactly the case is in Kenya. 106,125 cases having been reported since COVID made its entry into the country in March last year. Yesterday, 152 new cases and 3 deaths were recorded. If we look at the day before, 325 new cases and 2 new deaths in Kenya. And the day before that, 181. So now with the steady, reporting of more and more numbers in the country, this is where we're looking at 9%. Not as bad as when it was 16%, which was a problem. And then, of course, a little bit worse than when it was 3%, which is what the experts are saying. You want to try and get it under 3%, at least. Now at 9%, and their hopes that the vaccine will be able to curb this in terms of protections for people and will not have to suffer the effects of COVID, right? So that's what's going on in the country. We're going to wait and see what happens in the next couple of days, who's going to get their vaccine, how it's going to work out, where it's going to go in the country, who goes where, doing what. But we know that the frontline workers will be the first to get this, and it's mainly going to start with health workers before it goes then to security and teachers and the like, and the aged and those with comorbidities. All right. So let's look at what's happening in the United States just briefly. The numbers are still high up there, but although we see a leveling off in terms of the numbers that have been recorded, but COVID variants now are being, given the raised eyebrow. And it said that COVID-19 variants could pose a real threat to vaccine progress. And this is coming out from the Centers for Disease Control in the US, right? They're saying that the spread of a highly contagious coronavirus variant is threatening to fuel a potential 4th surge of cases in the US. And this is according to Dr. Rochelle Walensky. And she says that a high number of 70,000 new cases a day were recorded last week. There were nearly 2,000 deaths a day in the same period. She says, "Hear me clearly," and I quote, "At this level of cases with variants spreading, we stand to completely lose the hard-earned ground we have gained." She is the director of the CDC. These variants are very real, a very real threat to our people and our progress. So the variants coming in pose a threat. In terms of its virility, it's much higher. They are much higher than the initial variants that were affecting people across the continental US. But health experts are particularly concerned about a few of these variants, and they include the ones that showed up in the UK, South Africa, and Brazil, and they appear to be more contagious. And they're finding these in the United States, and they started coming into the United States as of this month. They're really worried about the reports of the US states that are rolling back public health measures which had initially been recommended to protect people from COVID-19. And they're saying they have an ability to stop a 4th surge. And she's saying that the 4th surge, if it actually begins, could be the worst that they ever see. They've got 28 million recorded infections, over 500,000 deaths. So she's saying, look, there's a problem here and we have to watch out for it. So not just the vaccines, but continue to make sure that the measures that they put in place initially are really, really taken seriously so that they don't get into more trouble. So that's a warning coming out of there. So we continue to see more countries across the globe picking up. And then we see, again, another country that has now rolled back on the AstraZeneca vaccine, and that's France. And initially they had thought that they would use it, but now they are saying that older people with pre-existing conditions can now get the AstraZeneca vaccine, whereas before they said they could not because they did not see that it would help out in terms of its efficacy. So
Okay.
that's what's going on in different parts of the world.
Okay. What did the Israelis say? Did they claw back on their vaccination drive?
Yes, because right now they said, and they're still at that stance right now, whereby after the backlash that they got, they now said, okay, we're not giving anybody at all, and they're still on that. They're going to review who they will help, if they will help anybody.
Then there's news coming out of France. Remember the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine? They had actually put a halt to administering it to people who are in the age bracket of the elderly.
Yes,
But now,
they're saying go ahead with it.
but of significance in the UK, they administer, well, among the first people whom they administered to were the elderly and those who are infirm. And what they have found in the time since they administered, just the first dose, not even the second one, is that hospital attendance by these same age group has fallen by 80%.
What?
80, not 80%.
Wow.
So people who
Yeah, because the UK rolled out with the elderly.
they rolled out with the elderly, yes. So they're seeing, they haven't even given the second dose, but with that first dose, they're seeing remarkable changes. So with vaccines, given that the disease is new, the vaccines for this particular condition is new, time here becomes of the essence in that with a little patience and understanding and actually studying what is happening, you actually end up with better knowledge that can actually help you combat this disease a lot better.
With that in mind and with everything else that we are seeing, so yes, I understand they need to vaccinate all the frontline workers.
Yes.
But should we also consider the other aspect of it?
Which one?
The age
Yes.
aspect.
Yes.
So for instance, yes, you can say healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, clinical officers, they're right there in the front line, vaccinate them. And then when you come now to the second tier of like security forces, if you look at our security forces, many of them are young.
They are young.
Should we consider maybe just saying, go for those, the elderly in that bracket, and then go for the other elderly in the society?
Yes. In our situation, I would think it would make sense in this regard. The elderly are not the most populous.
Yes.
The numbers are not that big compared to the young. But if they are not taken care of, then become spreaders. Okay? So, yes, they would be a good focus. But also, given that they are the ones, when you're older, it is you who has a system that requires a lot of boosting. They would be the age group that would be good to study to determine just how well this works.
Right.
But you're right. When talking of frontline workers, and you talk about the elderly, yes, I think your suggestion is an excellent one. It should be considered.
Okay. It's coming up to 6:15. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. We are already live streaming on our social media handles, SpiceFM KE, on YouTube. We are on Facebook. We are on Twitter. And we want to know wherever you are tuned in this morning. We'd like to say a very good morning to you. Keep it right here. Shortly, we'll be looking at how the weather is going to be looking like throughout the country today and in other parts of the world.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan? Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da! Japan? Yes! You will have to first learn Japanese. No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable. Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate, but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
Spice FM, Malindi. Traffic.
All right, getting it clear this morning is Nairobi, 17 degrees. We're going to go to highs of 28 and lows of 15 today. Cloudy conditions in Nyeri at 14, highs of 26 and lows of 13. It's partly cloudy conditions in Nakuru today at 15 degrees, going to highs of 29 and lows of 14. Clear conditions in Eldoret this morning at 14, highs of 26 and lows of 15. 32 will be the high in Kisumu today. It's mostly cloudy this morning. It's also mostly cloudy in Kakamega at 19, highs of 33 and lows of 17. 25 will be the low in Mombasa, which is what it is currently, going to highs of 32. 31 the high in Malindi. It's 25 right now and mostly cloudy. Mostly clear conditions in Kampala, stepping out of Kenya this morning, highs of 28 and lows of 21. Dar es Salaam is mostly cloudy at 17, highs of 32 and lows of 27. We're looking at mostly cloudy conditions in Johannesburg this morning at 13. It'll come down to a low of 12, highs of 22. It's hazy in Lagos at 27, highs of 34. And mostly cloudy conditions in Kinshasa, highs of 33 today and lows of 25. Looking into Beijing, 4 degrees in the afternoon there now, highs of 8 and lows of -3. Paris is going to go to a high of 18 today. It's 2 degrees at the moment and clear conditions, dropping only to lows of 5. And it's 5 degrees hazy in London as well, highs of 13 and lows of 4. And finally for now, Monday night in New York, 3 degrees. Coming into Tuesday, highs of 7 and lows of -5.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
6, this is Kenya's biggest conversation. The Situation Room. People are already online and saying hello.
Yes, they are. And Shirage Mwai is already on the train. Well, at least heading in that direction, I think. Good morning, Mchungaji. Daktari na Malkia. Okay. Tune in to the show this morning. Hiya, vaccines are coming? Oh, Queen. Okay. Got it right. Shirage, well done. So he says that's new. Yeah, actually, they are coming. Shirage. All right. Job Oma says good morning. Sir Haran Wafula tuned in this morning from Kisumu. Kisumu is awake, he says. And so Amlioto has told us this morning that don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds that you plant. And Michael Ochieng says, you quote your Robert Louis Imini Maliza. I always judge a day by the harvest. All right. Good morning, and that's from Laban. Laban, good morning. He's tuning from Nandi County. Dagya Guta this morning, tuned in. Happy for the grace of God this new day. He's tuned in from Nyabola. Kiplagat, Misoy, good to see you too, man. Tuned in from Maseno. Machakos is well represented according to Beda Wamacha. Eric Odwor Ogutu tuned in this morning as well. Aisha Nasri, good morning to you. Lawrence Carrier says, good morning, my friends. Well, good morning, friend. Tuned in from County 001, and that is looking forward to the one.
It's good to be 001.
It's good, eh? All right, to be
It's
the
first
one.
on the list.
It's good. It's always good to be the first on the list. Good.
Even if you're near the ocean.
George Otieno is tuned in from Bernard Totaro Secondary School this morning in Rachonyo North, specifically. Master Dan tuned in as an early riser from Beijing, going into afternoon in your neck of the woods. Ken Mukuna tuned in from Thika. Jeffrey's tuned in from Hennepin County in Minnesota, in the U.S. And Juma Mashallah. Good morning, team. Tuned in today's discussion from Mombasa. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the show, CT. Today's proverb.
Right. He who runs after good fortune runs away from peace.
He who runs after good fortune runs away from peace.
Yes.
So what are you saying? That good fortune is not good for peace? Good fortune and peace don't reside in the same location.
not necessarily if good fortune is your sole focus. Yes. Because it excludes all else.
Okay. As long as peace is not happiness. Choose one. Good fortune is equals happiness. Maybe. And then this peace thing, we shall deal with it. We shall buy peace. Once we have wealth.
Well, it's one of those experiments that never really comes to an end. It's always an ongoing process, trying to experiment. Okay, so does wealth produce happiness? If I have wealth and I lack happiness, can I then procure happiness? Well, people are still trying to figure it out, and they're still trying to do it with varying results. But the issue here isn't the happiness, the duration of it, and the sustainability of that happiness. Because I can be happy for 2 minutes.
Yeah, you keep topping up. Okay, let's look at the headlines in the papers.
Can we just look at one global headline before we even get into what's happening locally and regionally? So, former French president has been sentenced to jail for none other than corruption. French ex-president Nicolas Sarkozy was sentenced to 3 years in jail, 2 of them suspended for corruption. He was convicted of trying to bribe a judge in 2014 after he had left office by suggesting he could secure a prestigious job for him in return for information about a separate case. Sarkozy, who is 66, is the first former French president to get a custodial sentence. His lawyer says he will appeal. Sarkozy will remain free during that process, which could take years. In the ruling, Judge Christine May said the conservative politician knew what he was doing was wrong, adding that his actions and those of his lawyer had given the public a very bad image of justice. The crimes were specified as influence peddling and violation of professional secrecy. It is a legal landmark for post-war France. The only precedent was the trial of Sarkozy's predecessor, Jacques Chirac, who got a 2-year suspended sentence in 2011 for having arranged bogus jobs at Paris City Hall for allies when he was Paris mayor, and he died in 2019. So if Sarkozy's appeal is unsuccessful, he could serve a year at home with an electronic tag rather than go to prison. His wife, supermodel and singer Carla Bruni, reacted by describing the case as a senseless persecution, adding that the fight continued and the truth would come out.
There's some bad politics that's happening in France, by the way. Look at that. Jacques Chirac. Now it's Sarkozy. Remember the head of the IMF, the former head of the IMF, what was his name? Dominique Strauss-Kahn. Just the man who was likely to come and run for campaign after Sarkozy's term. Before that, sex scandal.
One after the other, back to back.
There's some serious politics that's taking place. Who, for example, snitched on Sarkozy? The judge.
The judge, yes.
See?
After he came to him and asked him to do him a favor, he now went and switched and said, hold on a minute, this man is coming and asking me.
I don't think it's a question of asking. Remember, he was no longer in office. Because the question you'd ask is, if he had asked for the favor and he was president,
then he would be influencing.
Yes, would the outcome have been the same? But on the other hand, I tend to think that, something similar happens in South Korea. There they actually jail former presidents. Okay? Now, is it that they have a good system? Is it or is it witch hunting? Which is it? Because if you listen, for instance, to what Ndu has read as a statement that is being attributed to Sarkozy's wife, even as I was listening, it mirrored also letter to the letter of what our own politicians say.
Yes. It's persecution.
Yes. Yes. It's a really human thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
The only fundamental difference is that you will not lose your job, neither will you face any jail term if you try to do that in a country
suspended or otherwise.
Forget it. None of that will happen. And I'm asking the question, should it happen? Because that's the level of accountability you want from your public officers.
Yes, indeed, that's what it is. That kind of accountability. The South Korea example is a good example. Because you see, in South Korea, it's clear this is the system and this is what you do. You're taken to court and there's proper evidence adduced against you. In these cases of these two gentlemen, Chirac and Sarkozy,
First of all, the issue of procuring
2
jobs
years.
for people. Now, you tell me.
When he was
And
mayor
he-
at City
3
Hall,
years,
And he
2 years
hired people
suspended.
at City Hall.
But of course, I mean, thinking as a Kenyan and as an African, I'm asking,
normal.
what is wrong with,
Oh,
what do you mean?
See, that's the thing. It's been so normalized in this neck of the woods that you now think it's all
Not
right
just
to
this
do.
neck of the
No, no,
woods, Ndu. It is a global thing.
Look, Ndu,
But you see now, look,
And then
apparently
they're
not,
coming
because
for
there's
him
a problem
many
with it.
years after he left the seat of mayor. He became president. He exited from the presidency.
now is when it's coming out.
But that's what often happens, right? You're going to look for historical evidence of things that they may have also done previously to compound your case currently.
There's
even
no
further.
compounding case. That was the
Yeah.
only case against Chirac. At
But let me-
those years when you were mayor, you hired people.
And we found out about it now.
But remember, if you look at the moralistic perspective of American presidency and if you look at the campaigns, something you did in high school,
They'll use it against you in the
course.
campaign.
Yes, of
They'll
course.
use it
It
against
comes
you
up.
in the campaign.
Yes, it does.
remember Obama?
You take a puff of
He
you take a puff
had
of
a Muslim
marijuana
sounding
in a-
name.
Yes.
Muslim.
You take a puff of marijuana in your college dorm room, and they go and dig up the person who was sitting with you on one Friday night in 1987,
Yeah,
and that person
and
comes to
says-
give testimony against you.
Yeah. But you see now, that is politics. That's now just trying to play politics and trying to paint you as this other person who, the way he's presenting himself, this guy.
He's a bangy head.
Yes. That is the politics. What we're seeing here, for example, here and the governor of New York, Cuomo.
Come on, yeah.
Every new day, there's a new dossier being released. It's like somebody has a whole stash
And they're just
of
releasing
dossier.
it like
and they
antibiotics.
Yes, just one a day. Fresh one. Oh, I don't know, he
Eric,
did go to the children.
it's a negotiation tool.
This one is going a bit
You know, I'm
too
saying it's a negotiation tool. You see, if you live in those countries and you look at the bar that they've set for these things, then I think it behoves you to understand the consequences that follow certain things.
Yeah.
You see, we come from a background where impunity is the order of the day. People do the craziest of things and you figure out,
It's
so
normal.
they'll just be walking and then they'll do this. We even know what they will do and we even talk about it. But this is a complete contrast where there is hell to pay. They will come for you. They may decide not to, but if they decide to, they will. And there'll be evidence, yes. Meaning the rule of law is sacrosanct. Ours,
Or at least it's upheld in cases.
It's upheld.
Yes.
It's like an envelope. It's kept somewhere or a file. You see?
You'll be gotten.
Yeah, there's something called the rule of law. Just because you have now gone astray or because somebody wants to get rid of you. Because in the case, for example, of Governor Cuomo, surely this guy was a poster child for fighting COVID.
yes, he
Just
was.
the other day, standing up against President Trump.
Now,
Shutting schools in New York.
What?
This, that, the other thing.
Now it's everything. Oh, you withheld information, you cooked data about COVID. Now you're going into sex scandals.
do you remember
You
what
were
happened
touching
to
babies.
Bill Cosby?
Surely. Yeah.
It's like they wait for you to get a little older and then they spring it.
Yes.
And then one. You see, but it doesn't diminish the reality that these are possible truths that are now coming out.
Yep.
However, because if you present it as a witch hunt, it's like, oh, they're making it up. Why would all those women make this story up? What possible reason would they make it up? There are certain things that one doesn't come out in the open and talk about because they're afraid. They're uncomfortable. But they're emboldened when somebody comes and says, oh, I see. Maybe I should also say it. Yes.
Maybe. I should. Me too. Yeah, the instigator is where the politics lies.
Yes.
I think.
I would agree with you.
That initial one.
Yes.
Is
I would agree with you.
let's
I would
time it to perfection.
Precisely. And also, let's do the homework on who else so that when this one
When
kicks
we're
off,
done with this,
we know the other one will come up.
we bring in the
And you
next
build a narrative around it.
one. Yes. 6:30. It's time for us to take a look at traffic this time and see what's happening on the roads. And then we look at more headlines. Good morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room.
There are so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done
in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Nafandi umbo yako iko na pembe.
you need umba special.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
La 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 la. Japan biotechnology. Yes. Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan? Knowledge. I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da! Japan? Yes. You will have to first learn Japanese. No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable. Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
Okay, Kiambu Road, guys, already a mess this morning. Even before the sun comes out completely, we already have multiple lanes. Trying to get on Thika Road this morning is going to be a tough one. It's also very slow on Thika Road. The service lanes, however, are moving without too much of an issue. It's bumper to bumper, however, on the main highway. The ferries are up if we're going to take a look quickly into Mombasa, and it's another reminder, *721#. That's how you can conveniently pay for the ferry toll. You can't pay in cash anymore, so if you can try and avoid those queues, the best way to do it is have some money on the M-Pesa so that you can pay getting onto the ferry this morning. Sawa. All right, Mombasa Road, as early as 5 a.m. The traffic started very early today. We're looking at bumper to bumper all the way from the Weybridge this morning and going through to General Motors. It opens up a little bit until you get to Bellevue and then out towards Nyayo Stadium, so we're going to be looking at some traffic today. We're also going to see heightened levels of traffic on Uhuru Highway all the way from Westlands through to the city centre because of the construction that continues. Guys, it's going to be a tough couple of months, but this one we've got to sit through it, all right? Let's take a look in about half an hour by the time the sun is up and see how this may have changed around the city. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
26 minutes. 26 minutes to 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. So let's look at local headlines, shall we? Headline is on a vaccine rollout plan in the country. The nation has the entire rollout plan. They've given this coverage on page 10. They say the first Kenyan will officially receive the jab on Friday at a ceremony at Kenyatta National Hospital where a distribution program will also be unveiled. Health workers and other people on the front line in the war against the virus will be covered in the first phase of the campaign. The headline in the Standard is the people to watch as the vaccine lands, and it says, let's start with the president. He is the head of state. He sits at the apex of government. He must oversee a smooth rollout and guard against the usual Kenyan bad habits of corruption, discrimination, favoritism, marginalization. CS Fred Matiang'i, who is the Chief Minister, the Minister for Interior, having invoked the Public Order Act with CS Kagwe, the pandemic burden has largely rested on Matiang'i's docket. Police must now offer effective protection and ensure a secure distribution system. So securing this. CS Mutahi Kagwe, you know, he's the chair of the Emergency Response Committee. He's the head of the health docket. He'll be under pressure to get it right this time. His assistant minister, Mercy Mwangangi, She's in charge of communication at Afya House. And the story says Mwangangi will have to carefully manage public messaging with regard to distribution, access, and transparency, and also to manage expectations. Ukuri Atani, of course, the money man. He has to release money when it's required. And then there's a gentleman here called Dr. Collins Tabu. He is the head of immunization. He has participated and sometimes even headed proper and successful immunization campaigns in the country. Now, this one is big because now we are immunizing the entire population of the country. So at least the big chunk of the population. How is this going to be done? The chair of the Council of Governors, Governor Wambora of Embu, he is also needed here because he needs to coordinate the governors and see how are we doing this and how best to do it. Stories is all about vaccination.
Big deal of things happening here. Okay, so there's more.
Okay.
Farmers in court to block the UK trade pact. So there's been talk of, this trade deal between Kenya and the UK.
Yes.
Now, local farmers, there's a lot in detail and something obviously that we need to look at some point in more detail. But if we look at what's happening now, farmers under the Kenya Small Scale Farmer Forum have moved to court to stop Parliament from debating, approving and ratifying a trade deal that would see some UK products imported into the country duty-free after 7 years. The trade deal, known as the Economic Partnership Agreement, the EPA, between the Republic of Kenya on one hand and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland on the other hand, is at the last stages of ratification. And the group wants this stopped until the case is heard and determined. They argue that the deal does not protect the local infant industries, hence affecting the development agenda, Vision 2030, where industrialization is one of the main pillars. The suit comes just days after Kenyan lawmakers declined to ratify the controversial Kenya-UK trade deal after they accused some unnamed officials of sneaking in documents that had not been tabled in Parliament. The petition filed by the Farmers and Eco News Africa, a research and advocacy organization, argues that the deal is in utter violation of the fundamental rights and freedoms of the petitioners enshrined in Articles 35 and 43 of the Constitution. So what we're looking at now is that on one part, the trade deal has very many elements to it. But one of the things that now is causing problems is that we're going to see an importation of a number of UK goods, and farmers are complaining that what this would do essentially would throttle infant businesses in the country, and they're asking that this should not be discussed in Parliament, should not be debated, should not be discussed, should not be ratified until this case is determined, because their rights essentially and their provisions and protections would be trampled on.
You see, there's yet another discussion with regards to this trade deal that we have. You see, we have entered a trade deal with the UK as a nation. And yet, the continent of Africa also has a body that has been trying to negotiate certain trade deals with the West. Now, as a layman, I would assume that when you get into an understanding as a bloc, you have a better bargaining position, as opposed to when you go it alone. And simply, when you talk about the benefits, you see, one, there'll be many brains and many thoughts about the issue. However, I do not know of any trade deal that has ever been arrived at that doesn't have issues surrounding it. They always do.
There'll always be something here or there.
Yes.
I've seen copies of the deal actually circulating. It's heavy. It's hundreds of pages.
They usually are.
Yeah, and it has a lot of details. I think the main thing that is coming out here, even from the first time that the story started coming out, that the trade deal is giving UK this tax-free and duty-free access to the country for 25 years, and also not telling us, so then what do Kenyans also get for maybe a similar period of years in terms of exporting to the UK. What should have happened here is proper sensitization by the government. And I guess that's what also the farmers are complaining about. That we are going to that stage of ratification in Parliament, and before we even get there, we should have had a lot of engagement with various stakeholders. And this is what the government should have done. As soon as the president and the trade minister came back in December from the UK in December, he should have embarked on that. So let's have these various stakeholder engagements. Let's have public conversations about, so this is the kind of deal that we'll enter into. These are the this is what we stand to gain as a country. So that if there are gains for us, then people start aligning and start looking at, so where do I fit in? Because the problem with this is it's ratified. People don't even know what has been ratified. We don't end up taking advantage. Very many years of AGOA, and we were still hearing from those who deal with AGOA that Kenya has not even used 5% of the opportunities that were available for
And the
AGOA.
Opportunities
It's coming
Act.
to an end.
Yeah.
And part of the reason is because they didn't know.
People just don't know.
They don't know.
It's very interesting that this conversation is being had today. Yesterday, the new World Trade Organization Director General, Dr. Iwala, said the same thing. She talked about vaccine equality around the world, but then she went on to talk about the fact that very many countries enter into trade deals and don't take advantage of the opportunities that are placed. And she was trying to see how, sitting at the helm of the World Trade Organization, and then starting to converse with countries in terms of really knowing what you can take advantage of when it comes to these things that you put on paper, and making sure that you have a complete understanding of what the fine lines really, really mean. Because the things that you may have been trying to protect within the boundaries of your country could basically be thrown into flames once you enter into a trade pact or a trade agreement, such as protections for your local farmers, for your local industries. Things like that could get thrown out the window. And so it's interesting that these conversations are being had now when she's come and said, WTO now must be at the helm of such things to make sure that countries are protected.
But you see also, this agreement that we're talking about comes against a backdrop of the UK having pulled out of the EU.
Yep.
Okay. So they would be looking for new partners. That's what
For
they'll
sure.
be looking.
Yeah.
And people don't start from the point of view of asking how you will benefit.
Of course.
They look at how
How
they will
benefit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this isn't the first time we're having such a discussion. Even in the time when we had the so-called Grand Coalition, discussions such as this one would take place. All right? And people would argue and say, folks, why do we rush into these agreements when we know full well we can actually get better deals if we approach this thing differently?
Yes.
Okay? Because remember, if you have an agreement with the EU, it's all the EU countries. So essentially you have a bigger market. I am not saying that having a business deal with the UK has only disadvantages. It has some advantages. But typical of the sort of arrangements that we have, ranging from the SGR to all these other mega projects that we have, you are told that you have this project. No one takes the time to explain to you how it is going to benefit you. And then when they talk about the benefits, you don't see them.
Yeah.
If anything, the only thing that you seem to understand is that you're paying for it. That's what you understand.
Or that you're suffering as a result
As a result of it. But
Yes.
as for the discussion, I don't know what it is about this understanding of simply informing your people. Have we not been discussing the issue of this vaccine rollout and saying, folks,
Let people know.
yes,
Manage expectation from the very beginning.
yes,
When are they coming? Are they coming in March? Are they coming in February? Are they coming on Valentine's Day, after Valentine's Day? Just say, this is what we expect to happen. First of all, we expect COVAX to release the vaccines, and then after COVAX
Yes.
releases, we shall now know when exactly they shall come.
Yes.
Then-
And
so we all start looking for, so when is COVAX releasing the vaccines?
Precisely.
Then now we start saying, all right, so now they've been released
but this one of next week.
next week.
Next week.
In the next 2 weeks.
No.
In the next 3 weeks.
No.
In the next. Give it to the nation, though. They have actually been right on this story on the UK-Kenya trade deal. They have written about it even today in Smart Business. There's a story on the good and the bad in the UK-Kenya trade deal. And also, a friend of ours is actually letting me know that only Kenyan manufactured goods will have difficulties competing in the UK because of uneven standards and centuries of UK protectionism. There is something called the Navigation Act of 1651.
You know, Eric.
So we are entering into a deal. Yes, they will be able to send goods to us, but are we ever going to be able to send our manufactured finished products to them? Or shall we only be sending our raw and processed products to them? Our tea goes there unprocessed. Our coffee, our nuts goes unprocessed. If we try and make it processed,
Eric, why don't
things
we
change.
even just talk about something that has been the biggest problem?
Yeah.
You look at the export of tea, the export of coffee. The largest exporters of the finished product are not us.
Yep.
Us is the raw material, which
them
is
the raw
brought. Yeah,
material.
precisely. So it's an understanding of historical skewedness in the way our leaders or those who get into contracts on our behalf.
But I think also it's a reluctance to be bold in terms of demands that are being made. Because once you're making these agreements, it's both of you at the table. It's not one at the table and one under the table.
Yep.
You're both sitting at the table.
You have somebody here who has walked out of a major block, and they're looking for
They
new
are actually
trade
at
partners.
a
that point-
disadvantage.
At that point, you've got leverage.
Yeah, they're at a
see,
disadvantage at that point.
I think the demon that plagues all these wonderful things we talk about again comes into play. You send people to go and discuss these matters on behalf of the country, but they go and discuss it on their own behalf. Someone looks, takes, and you wonder, how did you arrive at this agreement, really? You know, this issue of Brexit, it's plaguing the UK even now. Because you talk to the Welsh, there are benefits that they had when they were in the EU that now don't seem to be there. You talk about to the fishermen, there are issues galore about what should be done, what shouldn't be done, the market. There are decisions right now that are being made in the UK with regard to Brexit, and people are beginning to say, but we were not told that this was... Yes. Yeah, yes, we were told, but we seem to have, we were in a hurry to get into this thing, and we didn't know that this was going to happen. Yes, but it's done.
It's a done deal.
It's done.
You voted exit.
It's done. Yeah.
You voted out. 13 minutes to 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Keep it right here. Let's look at more headlines. And yes, very soon we'll try and get the CS for Trade to come and explain this to us. She is a lady who's very well versed in matters of trade, especially in manufacturing, especially when it comes to looking at Kenya's manufacturers and how they can take advantage of this. So, and I can bet that the people at the Trade Ministry, the people at the Foreign Affairs Ministry, they looked at this thing and they were like, this is what we can get. Maybe at some point the political decisions are then now made where some concessions are made here and there. But on the whole, the issue of not going ahead to have public participation and civic awareness on such a kind of a deal, the government gets one out of it.
La 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 la. Japan biotechnology. Yes. Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan? Knowledge. I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da! Japan? Yes. You will have to first learn Japanese. No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable. Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
11 minutes to 7.
94.
There's a story here that's on page 3 of the Nation. This is a tragic story because we're talking about an entire family, father, mother, and 2 children who died in a grisly road accident in Nairobi early Monday morning. So it's a story of a gentleman called Peter Miano Wahome, who had 2 things that he wanted to do last weekend and into the new week. First, he wanted to go to his in-laws to perform that ceremony, go and visit his in-laws' home in Subukia. He also comes from Subukia, okay? So they wanted to go and visit the in-laws in Subukia, and then they come back, and this new week, they move into a new home that they had constructed in Mwihoko, Nairobi. They went to Subukia. They had a lovely ceremony at the in-laws, They even went to his home, and then they departed to come back to Nairobi. At about 3 a.m. on Monday, just near Two Rivers Mall, that's now 3 a.m. Sunday, this gentleman called Miano, who is usually a taxi operator in around Githurai 45, had him as driver, his wife, and the 2 children. And then there's this other driver who was on the same road who attempted to overtake a truck that was on the road, came to his side of the road, collided with them head on, and they all perished.
Why were they out at 3 a.m.?
They were traveling back, I assume.
Very tragic.
Tragic road accident, 3 a.m., vehicle hit. So, police arrive at the scene, and for some reason, Miano had carried birth certificates and other documents with him. So police come, they find all these documents, they find some contact, they call a number, and they ask, do you know so-and-so? The person on the other end says, that's my brother. So the police interrogate this person a bit, and then they realize, the person on the other end of the line is also a police officer. So now they find it easier to break the news and tell him, you know what? This is what has happened. We're at a scene of an accident. There's a man, there's a woman, there are 2 children. And that is how the news was broken. Plan of moving to the new home.
Up in flames.
Yep.
Fortunately.
Very, very tragic. The person now who was in the other vehicle that rammed into them is fighting for his life because he's also in critical condition in the hospital.
Whew, it's heavy news this morning.
Yes, very, 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 very one of those sad ones.
Okay, so the Standard says that Matiang'i is outraged. The Nation says that he has warned officials over teen pregnancies. Still rearing its ugly head here in terms of an issue. The CS now bans disco matangas. I didn't know there was such a thing. As county records more than 10,000 pregnancy cases. Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i has put local administrators in Trans Nzoia on notice over increased number of teenage pregnancies in the county. He noted that Trans Nzoia is currently among the leading counties in cases of teenage pregnancies at over 10,000. Speaking during a tour to inspect government projects, he told the local administrators to ensure that pregnant students go back to school to continue with their education. He said the president directed that all children must go to school, whether expectant or not. This is now a government policy. Teachers are going to work together with local leaders to ensure these children remain in school. He banned the popular night dance known as the disco matanga. I was going to say the disco Matiang'i. Anyway, saying it is the major contributor to an increase in teenage pregnancies. He directed the local administrators through the county police commander, Frederick Ochieng, to arrest anyone who will be found funding or holding the discos. If you get anyone holding these discos, arrest them and confiscate their equipment. We are not joking about this. We cannot have our children being misused like that. At least 11,840 teenage girls in the county had been confirmed pregnant as late as
in
August
only
last
Trans Nzoia
year.
County.
Yes, since August.
Wow.
11,840. That's a lot of pregnant girls.
Yeah.
Endabas sub-county leads in the number of pregnancies recorded amongst girls aged between 10 and 14. Kwanza is second, followed by Kimimini, Saboti, and Cherangani, respectively. Kiminini, however, leads in the number of pregnancies recorded among girls aged between 15 and 19.
It's a very sad story. And I saw the clip of the CS after this security meeting and meeting with the leaders. And it said this is a matter that is of great concern, and it has been raised by the community, by local leadership. And they had also pinpointed that and said, this disco matanga, it actually happens to be escapades. And it says, it sounds like, and I'm being told here, that there's some sort of culture that happens here. And culturally, they say, when somebody has left, they need to be replaced. And so the disco matanga is where the pursuit of replacement takes place of the departed.
Really?
Yep. So the young people are coming for, this keep, and it's called what? The wake. Yeah, and they are coming here for the wake, and but
That's a lot of girls getting pregnant at the same time, Eric.
Yes.
I mean, and we're talking. Look, we're in March, no? Between August and as of August last year is when all of these girls were found to be pregnant. 10,000 now, between then and now, is what we're looking at.
You know, that's the tip of the iceberg. Huh? By the time you have pregnancies, it means you've been having unprotected sex.
Yeah.
It could even just be once.
It doesn't require an activity to have been repeated. But the exposure to sexually transmitted illnesses
It's a major problem.
is a greater problem.
Yes.
And some of these illnesses, you see, these are young girls, could affect you to the point where your reproductive health system is interfered with.
But what are we looking at? Look at the major issues that we see today. Stillbirth, fistula, as a result of young girls getting pregnant and their bodies are really not mature enough to handle a pregnancy or the act of childbirth. So we're looking at major issues here. And we're looking at the girls as the point of attention, but somebody's getting these girls pregnant. And the assumption would be that those who are getting these girls pregnant, those are not the only sexual partners that they have. So what are we talking about now in the proliferation of sexually transmitted diseases? It's a major thing. So we can look at these girls and say pregnant girls, right, should go back to school. But we can also assume that there are young men here, even if they're older men, there are young men here who are getting these young girls pregnant.
Yep.
So I think it's a major issue that hopefully will not just be laughed off, but something actually needs to be done, whether it's in terms of education, behavior change, whatever, but something needs to happen.
Yeah, it needs to go beyond. So there's one. And it's okay for the security forces to say, okay, so this is being highlighted as one area where this has been, because it's community that's saying this is what happens in these Komatangas. So we cannot ignore that. So yes, clamp down on that and crack down on that. But then also you need to have a lot more awareness campaign being done.
For sure.
On the issue of, like you're saying, unprotected sex and the risks of that and everything else that goes with it. So it needs to be a wider campaign. Much wider campaign. Let's close with this man who's in the dock.
Okay.
Because a man is in trouble for allegedly threatening to kill the president. The 22-year-old Simon Mushiri was yesterday arraigned in a Kiambu court over a Facebook post where he threatened to shoot the head of state if only he had a gun. According to the prosecution, Mushiri authored and published the threatening message on the 27th of February. He was accused of misusing his social media account by publishing the remarks that threatened the peace of the office of the president and the people who occupy it. Posted a post, said whatever he said, and it landed him in trouble. Now, here he is.
Do you think he really wanted to shoot the president, or he was just speaking out of frustration?
You never know.
You see, how will you know?
You would never know.
I wouldn't know.
Exactly. You would never really know.
No.
So he's in court, he's in the dock, and of course it's one to be a lesson to everybody else, to be like a case, like, see?
Can't just be flippant
Don't
with your
joke.
words.
You can't just come up and say things just like that. You're threatening not just, it's an institution, and a very important institution for the country at that.
Something that I should just mention, even before we come to the end of this hour. According to news in the Business Daily, page 10, nearly a third of Kenyan women are abused online.
Okay.
The digital space. Research that has been conducted by the Association of Progressive Communication, APO Africa, Feminist Research for Feminist Internet Report. Kenya, the report, those who reported as having been harassed or abused online, 28%, Ethiopia 31%, Senegal 25%, South Africa 23%, Uganda 33%. Women who are in the media space, people who write articles on Facebook, the responses that they've had, they are either sexist, they are either demeaning, or outright insults. In short, they are not treated in the same way as the male counterparts.
Wow, that's a big one. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Good morning. It's 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
All right, I'm so sorry, Brian, but you know what? It's been described as the ninth circle of hell. Traffic on Mombasa Road, and this is from the SGR and then moving outwards. It's not moving, bumper to bumper situation. Everybody's complaining about that this morning. We're likely to see that for a while today because another part of the construction then taking place on Mombasa Road today. So this affects traffic and it's tailed back all the way to the weighbridge at Mlolongo. Kiambu Road this morning started very early at 5 o'clock and trying to join with the Muthaiga Square today. That is not happening. A very, very slow movement also today. All right. Also look at Uhuru Highway and then trying to get into the city. It is very slow. It's tailed back all the way to the roundabout at Museum Hill. Okay, so traffic also on Thika Road, traffic on Westlands, traffic on Mombasa Road. It's slow on Langata Road as you're trying to get into the city, as is on Gong Road as you approach the city mortuary roundabout. All right, Jogo Road not looking too bad as you approach the roundabout and then try to get onto Landis Road into the CBD. Slowly moving, but it's moving all the same. Let's take a look in a short while how things might change. Incidents or accidents, let us know. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
After 7 o'clock, this is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. We thank you very much for joining us. This is the second hour of the show today. We begin the show from 6 to 10, and now we're live also on KTN Home. So, welcome KTN Home audience. This is your radio experience on TV. CT, today's proverb.
He who runs after good fortune runs away from peace.
He who runs after good fortune runs away from peace. All right. There's a comment on that proverb from Raphael. What is Raphael saying?
Okay, he says about the day's proverb, some African saying goes in the lines of money, fortune is not the problem. The problem is how you used it.
The thing about proverbs is that if you're talking about interpretation and understanding, galore. Take your pick. Because it's you listen to it, you hear it, and it's how your lived experience will enable you to should we say, operationalize it or come to an understanding of it.
Okay. Margaret says, in a way, yes, wealth quotas happiness. Ask me how.
How, Margaret?
So, you've been asked, Margaret, how? So, as we're going to the top of the hour and looking at the traffic, you were looking at that headline in the paper this morning. And this is about abuse that women face online.
Yes. I was looking at it
And
because
what are those statistics again?
I found it actually alarming. I found it alarming and I found it disturbing. The question that was asked, ever been a victim of online gender-based violence? Because that's what it's, okay? And Kenya, those who said yes were 28%. In Ethiopia, those who said yes were 31%. In Senegal, 25%. South Africa, 33%. Uganda, South Africa, 23%. And Uganda, 33%. Okay? And I also mentioned that it was the Association of Progressive Communication, APC, African Feminist Research, for a feminist internet report. This was their finding. Something that they did over a period of time. Now, why is this important? Because this is a discussion that centers on a certain element of inequality that our society, it's not just an African problem. that societies that for the longest time have been male-dominated have. And yet, enough attention has not been given, one, to the reasons behind it, the causes, and more so, even more pertinent, the effects of it. That hasn't been given. So this is a 2-page article that actually tries to discuss it. And they also featured and talked to other organizations that deal specifically with issues to do with gender-based violence. And when you say gender-based violence, not just violence against women, but just violence that is meted out to individuals when they are in relationships. Yes. That is really the broad background of it. But when you talk about violence, you see, the thing that caught my attention and why this particular article began making sense was a discussion we've been having for the longest time with regards to, remember that debate that was sparked off by the CES for Education regarding corporal punishment. Okay? And there were views, again, galore about it should be introduced. It should be. Yes, history provides us with an avenue for understanding how certain things came about, meaning the evolutionary process that they have followed. But sometimes we do not look at the lessons learned, positive and negative, in an equal balance. We tend to look at what we think is favorable to us at a certain given point in time. When you come from a historical background where beating is considered to be a form of discipline, the understanding is that no real harm will be caused. But you cannot say that there is sufficient data that we can refer to that tells us what it is that the eventual and general consequence of physical beatings, whether in a school setting or in a relationship, have come. Gender-based violence have brought it to the fore. But in the school setting, it has been assumed that caning was the order of the day and it was useful. Now, yesterday, one of our listeners sent me a message, and I'm going to read that message. It was an interesting message. He said, I was listening to you and your team on SpiceFM this morning discussing the issues plaguing our education sector and wanted to raise a concerning issue for possible discussion on your platform. My niece is sitting her KCPE this month at a public school. She tells me that every week this term they have to sit an exam. Then, if you fail a question you've already covered in class, you are caned. And that's for each subject. Okay. The saddest part is that my niece is a high performer, and even when she gets over 90%, she is still caned for each question she didn't get right. Now, this is now beginning to erode her confidence. It's a terrible thing to put a child through just before they sit for one of the most important exams in their life. You can imagine what damage it must be doing to the kids who are already not performing well. And apparently this is a common thing in schools.
So as they revise after our tests, if you didn't get a question,
if you got 95,
first of all, let's look at those 5%.
Yes. And then you make the mistake of the next 6, you get 93.
Then you go question by question. Those who got this right, stand up. Those who didn't get this right, stand up. Round. I went through this.
It's absolute nonsense.
I went through this. I mean, this is how learning.
How exactly were
It is
you?
nonsense.
This is how it would happen. So after our
Should I
test,
say it again?
now
Yes.
It is nonsense.
it is, huh?
Yes.
No, but I went through it.
You went through nonsense.
Yeah.
Because there is
See, here I
no
am.
way. And I'm sure if you sat and had a tete-a-tete, we'd be able to see that we can point
I'd
to
laugh at
something.
the kind of experiences we went through.
To point to something that went wrong. Look here. Tell me now, that 5% that you got wrong, is it because you did something wrong or because there
Probably.
was some understanding that you still did not have? Was it in that moment that you were not able to make through this problem or this formula or this question? And how has that caning... Now, tell me that the caning brought about you making up that 5%. Tell me that on the next step or on the next test that you took, then you made up that 5% because you were caned when you got it wrong in the last test.
Yeah.
Tell me that. Then
In some
maybe.
cases, it's just because
What
of
you do is that you
some minor
instill-
carelessness.
Nah.
You do not think through an entire
Beating-
process of how you are answering this question.
Beating shows that you did something wrong, that there was some kind of indiscipline, which is not the issue here. You cannot tie that to learning. And if we're talking about a learning process, now what you want to do is what? Beat ignorance out of me, and so then therefore in the next exam I will get it right? And this is the problem. When it comes about this, so you say now, you get a question wrong on the exam, then we're going to cane it out of you. There's a problem, and it cannot be used as a solution. It cannot be used to find the solution.
And there's
It
also
is wrong, and some
there's
people are
the
going to take it
there's the
way out of
underlying
bounds.
assumption that if a student doesn't understand something, it is their fault. Not necessarily.
What if you didn't communicate it properly
What
as
if
a teacher?
what if it is the teacher who has not gotten the clear understanding of how to disseminate this information so that each and every student understands it as they should?
So what learning, I ask again, what learning has taken place there, save for, oh my God, let me memorize this answer so that I don't get beaten? What learning has taken place there?
Okay, there are various, you can look at it from various angles. That particular one. So, for example, you can say, yes, what are the reasons behind which somebody got a question wrong? It could be because they did not understand. It could be because their level of understanding and their speed of grasping is not as fast. It could be because of also some learning disabilities. Okay? And all these things have just not been picked up by the teacher. All those things are now what the teacher should be able to know and decipher and tell. All right, so at what point do I use the cane? At what point do I use other methods of trying to make sure that the children understand?
At every point, will you use another method instead of beating this child to make them understand? At every point. Think about it like this. You who was disseminating this information to this child, let's see and find out that the fault was with you. If somebody, as the teacher, if somebody came and used some kind of physical discipline on you as the teacher, don't you think that on all levels that would be degrading? And in this case, the fault was clearly yours. Let's just look at it like that. This is a learning process. But then you want to mete out some physical discipline on this child because they did not understand, because they got nervous, because they got it wrong. There is no reason why you will use physical discipline on this child because they did not understand something. It beats the purpose completely. And if you're going to say that is the avenue which you use, then you also, if you explain something and the entire class did not understand it, what if we decided to discipline you physically
be beaten.
as
It's
the
okay.
teacher?
Yeah.
Eric, you said you had an experience which was
Various experiences. For example, that entire mathematical table, 1 times 1 up to 9 times 9. That's what would happen.
Did you learn it now? Did you go
In
back
fact, you're
to
learning
learn
outside.
it? Did you go back to learn it because you wanted to learn, or you went to learn it properly so that you would not be beaten? Truth.
You see,
The timetable was memorized.
The end
So that you will not be beaten.
The end justifies the means. Ask me 9 times 9, I'll tell you today.
Is what?
I will,
It's,
it's 81.
Okay.
I will tell you the entire mathematical table from 1 to 9 by 9. How it used to happen is that so today we're going to learn by that tree. Come out of the class, go when we're all sitting down, and Eric, come, lie in front of the teacher. You are doing the multiplication table of 5. So start 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times
And
2
there's a
is
stick
10,
over your
5
head.
times
What
3 is
kind of
15, 5 times
environment
4
is
is
that?
20. If you're given 5, of course, it's just doing 0 and 5, 0 and 5. That's easy. You're given 7.
Eric, let me ask you this question. In the time that you were in school, was there anyone who actually experienced serious physical harm from the caning?
Like
Someone taken to hospital, someone needing medical treatment?
someone needing medical treatment, not per se, but sometimes, someone reacting like, they've really been injured. Yes.
All right. But then there is something that perhaps is often not discussed and should be discussed: the trauma that it causes.
Honestly.
Not everybody responds to physical beating the same. There are people who
You switch off.
Yeah, you beat them, you don't beat them. There are others whom just the threat will get them to do something that they ordinarily would not do.
Eric now, who is giving you his example, he still remembers that trauma and how it was 5 times 5, 7, and then he gets to the higher multiples 7. And he's already, look at the memory there in his eyes. He remembers the trauma because he could not remember the multiples of 7.
For the five times 7 was an issue here.
Grown man.
The end justifies the means. Do I remember the multiplication table? Yes, I do.
Alongside the trauma, which was not necessary to be accompanied by.
Well, if there was no that trauma, do you think I'd
Yes.
Yes,
I'd
you
have
would.
taken
Yes.
some time?
You could have
Actually-
learned.
actually you could have
learned. You could have learned.
You see,
It was not necessary.
the evolutionary process of actually understanding the reward system, and here I'm talking about negative and positive reward system. It's a debate that educationists have had for the longest time.
Yep.
Okay? And the question has been, how effective is caning? And what are the long-term effects, positive and negative, right? We only talk of the positives. Or if this hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't have been a different person. Maybe you're the sort of person who played truant throughout, and words didn't quite get to you. So perhaps a little encouragement on your backside, scientifically, as I've told you before, it's been proven.
Reach your ears.
It helps communication directly to your brain, direct.
There you go.
When your ear is warmed. No, that's the thinking
It
about
is
it. I'm being
science.
facetious here. I'm being
Science.
facetious. The point is, there are others who will tell you that simply being spoken to or being denied something, there are ways in which you can reinforce an understanding of wrong without necessarily touching someone physically.
Okay, so I'll give you both examples. So, for example, this is math. And math teachers in our school, in primary school, that's because math is considered difficult and they'll take forever to get it. So you encourage them to get it. So I had the experience, for example, with Uncle Ben. He is actually a very good man. We meet now. This was the math teacher. At some point, when you know you have double math coming up in the afternoon, you are just traumatized. When you know you were told, go and do exercise page 1 to page 17, you just know tomorrow is double math. We are going to be revising this entire thing. So I expect to get called up after every question because I'm not sure I got it right. Same Uncle Ben was our English teacher. English, different. Coming in now and doing the entire conjugation of verbs and all. It's easy and it makes you understand. It makes you enjoy it. Had another English teacher called Gregory. And Gregory, in fact, now when it comes to writing compositions and all, he'd encourage you, you just write a composition, bring it, I'm going to mark it. And then he calls you and sits you down and tells you, okay, so here you could have used extra vocabulary, you could have put in a simile here, you get to understand and enjoy writing and speaking the language. But then, of course, in math, it's different. Because math, you guys don't get it.
So now
That
because
is not a failure on the part of the student.
You just don't get it.
It
So
is
let me
not a
encourage you.
failure
For
on the
example, if I
part
tell
of
you
the
guys
student.
go and memorize the multiplication table, which was at the back of the exercise books.
Yes.
The Kasuku brand used to have it.
Yes, they
Back
did.
of the book. They just tell you, go and memorize this thing. It'll help you. Tomorrow he comes. What is 2 times 5? So and so. And we just went through it yesterday. And
So
in fact,
let
I
me
even showed
beat
you
2
2
times 5
times
into
1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5. Tomorrow I come, I even show you with ticks count 6, 2.
It's
Tomorrow,
not that
2
the-
times 5.
It's
You
not
don't
that they
remember.
didn't go to memorize. So this is my
Stroke
thing.
twice.
No, it does
Third
not.
time, ask that person, what is
it
2 times
does
17?
not
They'll
aid-
tell you.
It does not aid the process of learning. And that's what we are talking about. In a school system, what you're trying to promote is learning. It doesn't aid the learning at all. If anything, it instills fear and it brings along feelings of trauma, which is not what you're trying to avoid. Now, what is wrong with asking, why are you not getting this? Is there a problem? How can we help? That is the approach that needs to be taken.
You're asking a 10-year-old. They don't know what the problem
Oh,
is.
they
What
do.
can help.
Oh,
Just-
they
they'll
do.
just
They
tell you, I
know
don't
why
do.
they don't understand.
Me, I
They
just-
know
I
why
don't
they can't
understand it.
remember.
They do.
They know what causes the problem in them not being able to give the answer or being able to understand the process. They know. But most times, the time is not taken to find out what the issue is. That is where the problem lies because you're wondering 2 times 5 for crying out loud. Uncle Ben, I know the answer. So you're assuming that this 10-year-old, this 9-year-old understands the process as quick as you do.
Yeah, it's
Forgetting
starting
that
with the
you
fact that
also
Uncle
had
Ben
a-
has taught you 3 times.
No,
Uncle
doesn't
Ben
matter.
gets frustrated. He's human.
He's a teacher.
Uncle Ben is trained to
He's a
understand
teacher.
that
He's
not
trained.
every student that he teaches will understand things at the same rate.
Yeah. That he did.
Yes,
And
and
that's why
that
those who get it don't get beaten.
and that
Let's hear from Dr. Mike, who's on the line. Dr. Mike, good morning.
Hi. How have you been?
Very well. How are you?
I get you. I can relate to your experience.
Lisa, right?
You also
It
traumatized
was
Dr. Mike.
pathetic. It was pathetic.
You
In
see?
fact, I was a D student up to Form 3.
see. And why were you a D student, Dr. Mike?
You hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I was a D student up to Form 3. And the moment I shifted schools to another school, because there's primary school where the beating was the norm. In fact, it got to a point I felt like I'm the only one being beaten. It got to a point where I felt like I'm the only one who is the SI unit of how to beat and cane a kid. I remember those teachers with a lot of hatred up to now. There were 3. In fact, one of them caned me because we shared a snack with his son, who was in the same school. That's how bitter it was. That's how bad it was. And for me, it was never even about the maths and the multiplication and all that. No. To me, it got into me like I'm the one to be beaten. After all, I'm waking up to go to school to be caned. First,
Mike, there's an issue with your line, Mike. Let's see if we can get you back maybe on a clearer line, right? 0719012600. We are discussing the proposal to reintroduce corporal punishment in schools. Do you support it? Do you not? Or even if you support it, to what extent? If you don't support it, is it at all that children should not be punished at all? No pinching, no caning, no, tapping with the palm on the cheek.
You see, no rapping on the with the ruler. You
Tapping
see,
with the palm on the cheek.
you encounter it, so you assume it is the norm and you don't question it. But you think back to students, classmates that you had, who for some reason or the other had difficulties in understanding what everybody seemed to understand. And in a system where beating was the norm, look at how those people suffered. Did it help them learn? I think not.
It didn't help you learn anything.
I think not.
You have grown people with experiences that traumatize them to date. To date.
People remember school.
People remember
Yes.
the discipline aspect.
Some remember school and tremble. Some remember school with trepidation.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be that way.
Look.
In a system where you were supposed to be learning.
School is not supposed to terrorize
Even
you.
now, in the last 20 years, there has been no corporal punishment officially allowed in schools. Do you think everybody has a positive experience of their school?
My friend, corporal punishment exists in these schools.
Even
Forget these
today,
rules,
leave
even
this
as we
thing that you're
speak.
talking
We are
about
saying no
acts in
official
government.
confirmation of corporal punishment.
Well, what we don't have is the official position that has that the government has actually brought to the fore in dealing with those who don't obey those directives. Corporal punishment exists in our schools. Forget
Even
this.
after it was banned, leave it alone. It's still happening to date.
So there is wisdom being deployed by head teachers and head teachers.
Wisdom.
We are speaking to a former head teacher here. He will tell you, I'm sure, if you are to be very honest, that you. In fact,
Are you
during your
suggesting that I'm usually not very honest?
during,
I mean, how do you have you heard the preamble to his statement?
If
Mr.
you were to
Speaker,
be very
If I have
honest.
to be very honest,
Mr.
okay.
Mr. Speaker, let me rephrase.
Yes.
If you are to be very honest this morning,
All right, carry on,
you'll
sir.
give us the experiences that you had as a teacher, as a head teacher, and what was happening in the schools, all right, at the time. And also what you were taught to do and how to deal with instilling discipline and also in dealing with children who are just simply don't seem to be getting what is happening. The reason why they came to school in the first place. There are very many things that you'll tell
Yes,
us. Let's
they
take
are.
a break. 24 minutes to 7 o'clock. Let's take a break. We'll take a look at the weather forecast for the day around various cities and towns in the country and in the world. And also take a look at traffic. So, Mombasa Road is madness. There's the construction of the expressway.
Yes.
On the way to the airport, just at Airtel, there's a diversion.
Yes.
On that diversion, there's a huge gaping pothole that basically occupies an entire lane.
Yes.
Out of the 2 lanes.
Yes.
So the contractor had been there. They filled it up briefly with soil and sand, and now the thing is back.
Again.
The kind of traffic it's causing. And the contractor is right there working on the road, and they can see the traffic, and they can clearly see the pothole, and they can see what is happening with vehicles slowing down at the pothole. But that's where corporal punishment would come in.
That one I have.
See?
I support.
That one you support. 25 after 7. Let's take a break. We'll be back shortly. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. We are live on SpiceFM, on KTN Home, and online. We'll be back shortly.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Have you seen the... Am I live?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Evan Wasingishi was asking me what channel is SpiceFM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
What
you.
a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you. And it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan? Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da! Japan? Yes! You will have to first learn Japanese. No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable. Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
The weather with Spice FM.
Oh, City said the child is whacked until he's airborne. But anyway, speaking about the air, let's look at what's happening in the country today. 18 degrees, mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi. There's a chance of rain today. We're going to have to wait and see. Going to highs of 28. Mostly sunny conditions in Nyeri at 14. Highs of 26, lows of 13. 29 will be the high in Nakuru. It's partly sunny at 16. It's also sunny in Eldoret at 14. Going to highs of 26, coming down to lows of 15. 32 will be the high in Kisumu. Highs of 32 rather. And at the moment it's 22 and mostly cloudy. It's also cloudy in Kakamega at 20. We'll see highs of 33. 32 will be the high in Mombasa, where it's currently 25 and sunny conditions. Also in Malindi at 26, going to highs of 31. Looking out into Kampala, it's mostly sunny at 21, highs of 28. 32 in Dar es Salaam. It's mostly cloudy at 28. 13 degrees and mostly cloudy in Johannesburg. We'll go to highs of 22. 34 the high in Lagos today. It's still hazy. There's a chance of rain at 27. Partly cloudy conditions in Kinshasa at 25. We'll see highs of 33, coming back down to lows of 25.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Traffic.
Yikes. So it is pretty crazy right at Syokimau today at the SGR, bumper to bumper and maybe another bumper in between. All jam and no butter today. It is not smooth at all. We're looking at crazy traffic on Mombasa Road, outbound and inbound as well. It is not moving, guys, as is Kiambu Road. It's a mishmash and then trying to join with Muthaiga Square, getting to the Pangani underpass. Also, bumper to bumper situation. It is that Tuesday. You know that Tuesday you asked about? That's the one today. Jogo Road, getting to Landis Road, out towards the CBD also is jam-packed. Not moving, guys. It's very slow on Langata Road as it is now on Gong Road. We're right in the middle of traffic hour. Let's take a look and see and pray that this opens up just a little bit. But in the meantime, you're going to have to be patient. We'll keep you company in the meantime. SpiceFM KE, that's how you can get in touch on Twitter. Text us on 40127.
spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Okay, so there is more traffic update.
Yeah, unfortunately. So if you're on that train from the Royal station today going into the city, it has stalled at Maili Saba today just before Dandora. So that's going to be an absolute mess. And so you're going to have to get off and use another form of transport, unless, of course, if they're trying to get you out. So if you're on that train, if you're headed in that direction, everybody getting out of the train now and trying to get other forms of transport. Sorry, Shirage, we understand your plight this morning.
Okay. Having a conversation about reintroduction of corporal punishment in schools. Has it ever left the schools, or has it always been there? There's an example, an experience that has been shared by John, our producer. So, same, math. Math is the problem subject. John was average student in math, always getting around 50, 55, 60%. And then it got to a point where they used to do the test papers. So the teacher would come with the test paper, which has the answers already on the test paper. And then you tell them, okay, guys, first of all, rub the answers and then do the test. So clever John decided, I'm going to rub page 1, page 2 and 3, I'm not rubbing. So he didn't. So papers are marked. You know the way the teacher comes back now and starts from the bottom or from the top. So he starts from the bottom, those who got, it goes giving out the result sheets. Gets to the one that is left, and John has not received his results back. He says, we have a new mathematician in class. And this is John, 97%. Now, boss, you have moved from 50, where you always play, to 97.
You've moved from where you were safe
to 97. That exposed him. So that also, the fear of the fact that the next time if he drops, he'll have to answer, why are you dropping? Just 2 days after praising you to be the best mathematician in this class, now you're going back to 50. What's wrong with you? The fear of that made John improve his grades.
The fear of presenting to the class the answer, or the fear of being thwacked?
No, the fear of ever dropping from that 97 dramatically back to 50.
Because John entered into this formula dishonestly. There was a problem. In the
first but place. He stayed there now.
Was there any corporal punishment?
Yes. Did anybody thwack him as a result of or because he got
knew
to
he
97?
Would get it. He knew he would get thwacked.
Actually, he did. You see,
it was incentive.
If you enter an exam room, you will be anxious. And why you will be anxious is because you have this need to do well.
Yeah.
And the anxiety is brought about by a feeling that you may not do well. And that in itself is supposed to be the motivation that makes you study so that you do well. But not everybody is that way inclined. There are people who don't care. And you have to find ways and means of making them care. There are people who don't care whether they get 1 or 2% or 3%. It doesn't really bother them. No. This need to excel, not in they have other priorities.
In fact, they're going to school because their parents said, okay,
yes,
you need to go.
This learning is something they do because they must. But it's not as though. The question is, do you think just because beating was the norm, do you think that that particular mode of incentivizing, as you're calling it, is the best way? And I'm saying it isn't. And that is because I come from that background of education. Yes, I'm an educationist, and I'm saying no, not necessarily.
You'll tell us what else could be used.
Yes.
Let's hear from Daniel. Daniel is in Nairobi. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
We're fine, thank you.
Very well, thanks. Man, I'm really grateful that you guys brought this conversation up. I'll start off with a quote from from Einstein himself. And he said, the greatest decision a person can make is whether they believe the universe is either hostile or friendly. And honestly, as an educationist and somebody who is there to, nurture and feed into young minds, pouring in the thing of fear as a basis in how to operate within the world is such a flawed, way of doing things. And as someone who, I really went through that, and it's something I've had to unpack in my adult life, and it's also informed how, my spouse and I parent our child. You know, in terms of being conscious, in terms of sort of remembering how it was for us and not necessarily making the same mistakes. Because my mother, you know, probably took me to a school because they had the highest KCPE results for whatever reason. And that school now had a marketing angle and needed to ensure that they stay on top.
Yep.
And the way that they used fear from, I mean, I was 7 when I went to that school all the way till, you know, standard 7, back in the, you know, it was horrible. It was true trauma.
And do you remember it to date?
You know? Oh yeah. I mean, I'm gonna go as far as at some point one time in a whole close to my 30s, I had to go get some healing. I drove all the way to that school in, you know, I had to cross several counties just to go see the structures, you know, sort of just to let it
closure.
I don't know, sort of the child within, exactly. And the most interesting thing is I actually had to see face to face one of the teachers who caused some of the worst trauma there. And now I'm towering over him, looking into his eyes. And there was this rage. And, thank God, you know, it's just one of those things I knew I was there and had to be healthy about it. But, you know, as I was walking through the hallways, I'm seeing all these other kids. And I don't know if I was maybe projecting, but I could also see the same fear, the same narrative literally being written many, many years later.
Daniel, if I may ask you, so in your opinion, what would be the best way of ensuring that students don't go through that kind of trauma, but at the same time, they get to learn and get to understand, and those that are, you know, maybe for one reason or the other, not concentrating in class, also are incentivized to concentrate?
Yeah, look, you know, the whole idea of incentivization and etc. It has to be approached from a healthy perspective. I'm grateful that the government has a structure in place, but I think it goes beyond that. I think as parents, charity truly does begin at home. You know, so and if you are a parent, you're paying money to take your child to school, you are pretty much a stakeholder in that decision, and you have standards and say, hey, listen, if my kid is not doing well, don't cane him, I'll get tuition, or damn it, I'll do it myself. I'll spend an hour later, you know, after work, taking them through the timetable. But we're literally putting kids through a conveyor belt of pain, trauma, you know, and in all honesty, I think that this is probably going to be a broad statement, but the way we do policing, the way we have security, the way we, you know, this sort of hard mentality, the cane, the rod, etc. Somewhere you see that manifesting itself in politics, in scarcity mentality, you know.
In the society that we live in now.
Exactly.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much for sharing your experience and also your thoughts.
Cheers, thanks.
Asante sana. So, City, what's this other way?
You know, the fundamental role that a teacher ought to have, forget the teaching role, that is obvious, but in understanding each and every of the students that are before you. And I would venture to say that if you have taken that up as a profession and you find it is burdensome to try and understand your students, one, there are too many. In short, you're saying you're not willing to be innovative in finding ways of it, then don't teach.
Leave it.
Do something else. Don't teach. Because if you really want to teach, that shouldn't be a bother. It should just be a challenge, but it shouldn't be a bother.
In fact, you should go into it knowing that you will face challenges where there will be students or where there will be learners who will have a challenge when it comes to this learning process. You should go in knowing that that frustration will come your way and that it's something that you're ready to go with by virtue of the fact that you've chosen that profession.
Are teachers taught this?
Yes.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So what are they told? So because corporal punishment was, of course, recognized.
Corporal punishment.
Officially. So what is it that teachers are taught?
You're not taught to cane students.
What are you told to do with
No.
students?
What the education system provides you in your training is training in psychology. One of the things that you're taught at a very early stage is child psychology, so that you understand the fundamentals of why children do what they do and so forth. And then you'll be taught educational psychology. In short, you're actually equipped to actually go into the background of understanding what it is that you do and the people that you're supposed to do it with.
So how did we end up with teachers caning students?
That, my friend, is tradition now. It's tradition. For the longest possible time, discipline, I'm talking about an African setting.
Yep.
Okay? Even in an African setting at home, you do something wrong, you will be punished. And punishment often meant caning.
Yep.
So it's a tradition that you take with you into your place of work. There are people who, if given an opportunity, even in a place of work like where we are at, if someone misbehaves, there should be somebody who should be caning them as far as we're concerned.
Yep.
And we even hear it in our speeches. Someone will tell you, you're fit for a beating. And what that means is there's something that you're doing that is wrong, and we feel that the only way that you ought to be disciplined and the only way we can get you to understand the wrong you've done is by meeting some sort of beating on you.
And it's universal.
No, but the determining
and historical.
The determining factor for this discipline is what is wrong from the very beginning. To say that the reason why I'm disciplining this child is 1, 2, 3, and it is not the solution. It has not been thought about. You go from step 1 to 10 without looking at the steps in between to saying, what is the actual problem why this thing is wrong? And I think if the time was taken to actually look through that, that you would be able to find that you could actually solve this problem without raising your hand. But I think there's always a jump from problem, solution, and the solution is beating.
We don't have time in between. Boniface in Kitengela, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
How are you today?
I'm very well.
So, corporal punishment to cane or not to cane?
Personally, I wish to start with the word punishment. Punishment is meant to be administered when something has gone wrong.
Yep.
And there must be a reason as to why the other word that was added there, corporal, it means it's gone beyond. Actually, man is meant to work on deadlines. That's why most of the time, even at workplace, we have the clocking machine and so on. Otherwise, man will do anything. There are those who are to be pushed. There are those who are to be pulled. And there are those who are to be held so that they remain on the required mark. So before we talk about disciplining or corporal and so on, we need to address the reason as to why these things are coming up. So next time, I think we should be able to talk about why are we having such like issues. Because you find that a teacher is talking to a student and the student is just carelessly maybe pocketing and looking at the other side and so on. So punishments come to deter somebody. It's only that some go beyond the mark, but they are supposed to be reasonable. And it's even said in the Bible that spare the rod and spoil the child. And since we've spoiled the child, that's why we are seeing what's happening in schools all over.
Can I ask you a question? You've given the example of you go into office and you're supposed to clock in and clock out, right? What is the remedial measure? What's the measure that's put in place if you're late several times? What happens at the office? If you come in late several times, your time card is not tallying up, what do they do in the office?
You are actually cautioned.
You're cautioned, right?
You are cautioned, and if the worst come to the worst, you are terminated.
Okay. Now, does anybody does anybody lay a hand on you, pinch your ears, tap you upside the head kind of thing? Or they have a conversation with you first of all, give you a warning, caution, and then tell you about it later? That's what happens, right? Does anybody lay a hand on you, even as a grown-up?
Now you are underlining on
No, I'm asking a question. I'm going somewhere with this. Please hear me out. Does anybody lay a hand on you in the corporate sector, in the office? Do they do something, take you into the corner somewhere, whack you upside the head? It doesn't happen, right? They have a conversation with you because that's a method that they can use to get something into your head, right?
Let me tell you, madam. cautioning you is a kind of laying a hand on you.
How?
Actually, it's not, because there's no physical contact at all.
Cautioning is part of laying a hand on you. Is a way of not sparing the rod.
Actually, corporal punishment has to do with physical.
Physical contact is what we're talking about here.
And physical doesn't mean verbal. It means somebody
Physical.
either uses their hand or some tool, a slipper, a cane, to inflict pain on your body. Yes.
That's what.
It means you have gone beyond normal. The word corporal comes in.
You see what we're calling normal here, and this is what we are querying. We are saying, at what point was it normalized? Now, there are people who use the Bible as a background and say the Bible teaches that if you spare the rod, you'll spoil the child. All right? And right across the world, in fact, the first country to actually outlaw corporal punishment was actually Poland in 1783. First country in the world to outlaw it. It was something that was considered normal. And the other thinking that was around this was, in the Western world, you were there, they say it in Latin, in local parentis, instead of the parent. And they took the view that if your parent caned you, the teacher then taking the role of the parent in a school could also cane you. But when the effects of this caning was taken into account, and the thought process around alternatives to achieving the same result, then some of the practices that revolved around caning were considered at the very best to be barbaric. They didn't actually serve a better good. There was a lot more harm being brought out of it than the good that was intended.
Hello?
Yep, Boniface.
Yes, you are right. But before we come to the outlawing, we should also address when did it pass or come into existence in the first place. When we start even in the Bible, do you know why man is on earth in the first place? That's where punishment started, and even I think is corporal. That's why we are now sweating. We toil to eat to survive. So it's only being
actually corporal is taken from the Latin word corpus.
Corpus, which means body.
Yes.
So it actually has everything to do with the definition of punishing the body. Yes. It has nothing to do with what you're talking about. If you look at the definition
punishment,
as it's touching on the body.
Yeah, it's punishment
physically.
by touching on the body. Anyway, Boniface, thank you for your sharing your views this morning as well. Thank you very much for calling in. Let's hear in from Odero in Kisumu. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, I want to say no to corporal punishment.
Okay.
Yeah, you go to schools you find head teachers, head mistresses. They have electric cables for corporal punishment for a child, which to me I don't think is acceptable. You find students are given, supposing you are given some work to do like mathematics, and you don't get the answers right.
Yep.
What should be the corrective measure? Is it caning the child, or showing him or her how it is to be done? I think some of the teachers are just mad about it. They come to release their stresses, and I don't think this is the right way to go. Suppose if we introduce corporal punishment to the current pupils that we have now, I'm telling you guys, there'll be riots all over, because these are our children. We need to take care of them. Talking to them, I was once chanced to go to a school like Alliance. You find the teacher-student relationship is that mom, dad, mom, dad. But you go to the villages, you find a pupil will run away when they see the teachers because of the relationship. Corporal punishment, no.
Thank you, Adero. Thank you very much. John in Elbagon, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Corporal punishment, to me, it depends for what purpose, but not to help somebody in the academic life. It doesn't work. Misbehavior, kidogo. But you didn't do exams well, I don't think it works. It doesn't help. Actually, it does more harm than good. I've experienced with my two sons, I can tell you. There's one was an A student, and he was in this school, a private school, as somebody was saying, a school where somebody has to pass an exam.
Yep.
I remember one time, SST is marked out of 60. The boy gets 59. No, actually he got 60 out of 60. and he was still punished. Do you know why he was punished? Because his friend got 45. So the boy came home so mad that I got 60 and I was still punished because my friend got 45.
So what was the justification or the explanation given by the teacher?
That why are you getting 60 and your best friend is getting 45? You are not helping your friend.
You should have helped your
friend.
friend.
Yes, you should have helped your friend. Yes.
See.
So it doesn't help. But also, especially in the private schools, you have to understand that teachers are also under a lot of pressure to perform. And the only way they know, maybe they believe that they can perform is by beating these children.
No.
Like that, yes, please.
No, I'm saying that needs to be unlearned then. Yeah. Go ahead.
See, that is...
it needs to be unlearned.
But wouldn't you say then, John, that is taking the easy way out? Because...
Exactly.
You want to use the tool of threat, a beating, a pain being inflicted on you. And the question that comes to mind is, surely, don't you think you can communicate? It may take a little time and bother, but can you not communicate something else so that you have the same effect?
Absolutely.
Yes, and I came to realize that the reason why majority of the teachers are doing that, we have two kind of teachers. There are those teachers who are there because it's their calling. And those are very different. And the others who are teachers because they didn't have anything to do. I'm telling you, those teachers are frustrated. They really meant their frustration on the children.
So
and these are they unleash it on the children, and it's just bad. It doesn't work. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Eric Inoyugis, good morning.
Morning to you.
How are you today?
I'm okay. Quick one. Let me join your conversation by saying this. You know, the issue of corporal punishment to me is not an issue. Anything about punishment or correction depends on the attitude the teacher is inducing, the reason he is inducing it, and the manner in which he is inducing it. I'm very sure amongst all you in the studio, during your generation in school, there was nothing like burning the school. It was because of the kind of discipline that was being instilled. It was Operation Protect the Future of the Children. It was an involvement between the parents and the teachers. It was a unanimous effort that we are doing this for the posterity of the children. So you are disciplined in school, you get home, you try to report that to the parent, who you think actually could be on your side. He again deal with you on the spot over the same. But the challenge we have with this generation is one. A lot of civilization, on a lot of activism on the child rights, and at the same time, we are trying to bedevil the efforts teachers are making, irrespective if at all one teacher did a bad thing and actually killed the child unnecessarily. And then all civil society want to come out as if all teachers in the world have gang up against children. And you see, children, because of social media, they are this. When these things pile up, mwalimu anakaa kwa ofisi kwa staff room anajiambia one thing. After all, this is not my child. At the end of the day, he fails, he passes, it's none of my business. So if at all we could give a support to teachers so that generation that you people learned, that this is an effort, it is a community initiative that the child should pass, but above all, the discipline. Those days when a child sees a teacher on the road, hata hajamuongelesha from a distance, but he dashes into the bush.
You want to return to those days?
Sorry?
You want to return to those days?
It is not being, things are done in different ways. Not that you need to dash into the bush, but that discipline ya kwamba, what will he tell me? Did I make it? But you will do it in a more friendly way that the child will give you that right approach that, hey, this is what I'm going through. How can I be? That is now through counseling and a more unanimous way and a more friendly parenting way of dealing with issues, but
Eric,
not
we hear you.
instilling fear. There's a difference between instilling fear and instilling discipline.
We hear you, Eric. Thank you very much, Eric, for calling. Have a lovely day in Oyugis. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Time for a break on KTN Home, 5 minutes to 8. This conversation continues right here on SpiceFM. KTN, don't go away. We'll be back and have more conversations.
87.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. Start your day. Spice up your life.
All right, back to the phone lines. We have Moses on the line. Moses, good morning.
Huh?
Hello, Moses.
Good morning to you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How is Kisumu today?
Kisumu is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Corporal punishment,
I
yes
want
or
to
no?
make a contribution. Corporal punishment, I want to bring another view of it. My view is that we, the generation that we have today, we have neglected our children. And that's why so many people are calling on corporal punishment. For me, I think corporal punishment would not help. But just because our generation today, when our children are growing, we neglect them. And when you look at the parenting of today, so many young people who have got children, they come home late, and when they come home late, they don't know how their children are growing. And so that in itself contributes for a number of things in the life of children. But I want to say that parents must be very visible in their children's growth so that they impart the values that they want or the values that are desired. And if we cannot impart that from when the children are young, I want to say the person who said this thing that charity begins at home was very intelligent. He knew that the mother and the father are the role models of the children. And so therefore, if the mother and the father are not there in the life of a child as the child grows, then you don't expect that child to have morals. That is my contribution.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Moses.
Thank you, Stu.
Have a lovely day. So, Siti, if you say that we don't reintroduce corporal punishment, and then there are very many other ways in which you correct a child, there's also that other side that comes in that teachers are feeling disempowered. Because the simplest thing, nowadays, it's not even about beating. It's just simply because you told a child, go and sit there at the corner. And the parents will come and say, you cannot do this to my child. Why were you doing this to
Teachers
my
aren't
child?
feeling disempowered. They are disempowered. Yes. They are disempowered.
How do we correct that?
Well, actually, you're asking me how we correct societal norms. You see, you're talking about changing the perspective that parents have as to what their role in their children, the learning of their children should be. If the parent wants to be involved, how do they get involved? If the views are to be taken into account, how should we take them into account? I think it's a discussion that once started must continue.
Absolutely.
What is often discussed is how it is that parents will run roughshod over the decisions made by teachers. They will insist
that
this is what they want done, to the point where, forget corporal punishment, even there are reports, even when a child is told off or corrected, there are parents who take issues with that.
Of course.
So here we're not dealing with a child who has a problem. We're dealing with a parent who has a problem.
Absolutely. And I think the lines need to be drawn. The boundary lines clearly need to be drawn. I think that definitely is a role that cannot be abrogated by parents in terms of what you're supposed to do to be instilling discipline in your children. Because I think also what we've done here is that we've compartmentalized this thing. So you need to be sure, even as parents, that what you're sending out has already been, the lines of discipline have been drawn around. That's absolutely necessary as well. But then on the other hand, you cannot have somebody who is directly mistreating your child, whether they are disciplined or not.
Conversations to continue. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Keep it right here. In the next hour, we talk about women representation in corporate boards. Good morning. It's now 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM. Kisumu. Traffic.
Okay, so we still have that crazy traffic on Mombasa Road today. Guys, been there for an hour plus. In and outbound, we have problems on Mombasa Road today. This one needs some serious patience. Outer ring blocked at Kariobangi towards JKIA this morning, unfortunately. We have a little bit of traffic on the eastern bypass as well. The southern bypass is behaving very well this morning. There's an option for you to use, get out of town and then back into the city if you must. That's the way to use it. Coming off Ngong Road towards the city mortuary roundabout is all right. Going towards Bagathi Way or out towards Valley Road, you should be fine. It's slow, but it's not bumper to bumper. Where it is bumper to bumper is Kiambu Road. As you try then to join the Muthaiga Square, it's going to take you some time to get to the Pangani underpass. That's where we're seeing chock-a-block situation. That and Mombasa Road. And you know what they say, when Mombasa Road has a sore thumb, the whole city has an ache in its hand. Let's have a look at what it looks like in a short while. SpiceFM KE. Get in touch with us on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Biggest conversation. We thank you very much for tuning into the Spice FM this morning. Wherever you are around the country, if it's Malindi 97.7, Nyeri 90.9, 87.9 in Mombasa, 102.5 in Kisumu, or Eldoret 96.7, or Nakuru and its environs 96.0. Or wherever you're tuned in around the world, SpiceFM KE, that's where we are live streaming on YouTube, on Facebook, or on Twitter, or if you're watching us on TV, on KTN Home. Good morning to you. C.T. Muga, today's proverb.
Right. He who runs after good fortune runs away from peace.
He who runs after good fortune
runs away from peace.
Runs away from peace.
Yes.
Where is this from?
Well, there's a country that many people in the West refer to as Africa.
That one.
That one.
In the country of Africa.
Yes.
Okay, I can't wait to hear why you decided to pick on this particular proverb today and what exactly it means, the applications of this particular proverb. He chooses to run away from, to run towards, runs away from. Okay, anyway, so let's talk about the issue of gender equality, the global push for gender recognition, gender equality, terms like gender mainstreaming come in. And now we have it even in the Constitution. It's one of the things that is being championed in the BBI, that, with the BBI now you're going to have a way and a formula to ensure that we have gender equality in our Houses of Parliament, even in our county assemblies. It's already there, and looking at other appointable positions. But the conversation does not go beyond government into the private sector. So let's bring in that conversation in the private sector in terms of gender equality in the private sector, starting from senior leadership positions. How many corporations actually have senior managers who are of the female gender, or if you look at the management team, would you say that it has proper gender balance? Is it 1 man to 10 women, 2 women to 10 men? Is there that? Then let's even go beyond that to the management. At board level, how many organizations actually have women sitting on the boards? How many organizations have about 30% of women sitting on the boards? That's a third. How many? Because now we are starting with many organizations starting with men occupying seats on the board. How many have brought in women to try and strike that balance? Last week, there was a story in the dailies that the Nairobi Securities Exchange had joined something that was being called the 30% Club, that is championing the inclusion and the mainstreaming of gender in the boards, and saying that we can have 30%, at least 30% representation of women sitting in the boards. This is not the first time that the conversation about boards and bringing women to the board has actually taken place. But one of the people who are championing this now, the 30% Club, and the leader of the 30% Club in East Africa, joins us in the studio. Her name is Zuhura Othiambo. Zuhura is the CEO of an organization called New Revenue Solutions Africa. Good morning, Zuhura.
Good morning.
Good to have you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Welcome. This is a situation room that is called a hot seat.
Yes.
It's not going to be very hot for you. It's just going to be warm.
It's a good one.
Adequately. No?
Yes.
Talking about this whole issue of gender mainstreaming, especially in the boards, and the 30% Club. Just tell us about the 30% Club and what it is that you're championing.
So thank you so much for having me here this morning. And of course, talking about my passionate topic, which is the 30% representation that we're driving. And that is from the 30% Club, which drives gender diversity in boards. The 30% Club drives the gender diversity to encourage a lot of boards to, be able to get that representation. Not only would it help them in the aspect of leadership and, the whole corporate governance, but also we've seen the productivity of how those companies have performed when they're able to take care of that. And even as we talk about the 30%, it's not 30 that is the minimal, it's the entry. We've seen companies and even Kenyan listed companies that are actually doing even up to 50. So 30 is just kind of the minimum to get in, but we are encouraging to drive it all the way to 50%. Others have even gone beyond 60. Yes.
Why is it so low?
Why?
Yes. Is it so low? Because, I mean, just looking at the information that we have around, I think probably the highest now we're looking at among some of the best in the country is 25, 26. That's the best.
Yes. Yeah.
Some are as low as 10, 11.
Yeah.
Why is it so low?
It is low because first, yes, we can't ignore the patriarchal system that we've had, as Africans. And not only that, because you've seen that even across the world. Actually, 30% started off in the UK in 2010. And that was a need that has been pushed. And we're even seeing up to now, not all of them are aligned to it, but we've seen majority and good growth around it. But coming into the African context, because Kenya, the East Africa has actually been the second after South Africa, who have been the main champions of the 30% Club. And now we have the East African representation that we launched like 3 years ago here in the market. And that has been also because of lack of awareness and even people just understanding about it. More about we drive heavy that it's not about gender. And it's about business. So we've seen serious diversity brought into the boardroom. We've seen serious diversity that has enabled organizations actually perform better. And that's what we're driving out there. So when people look at the 2/3 gender rule, 30%, everything else, it's not about the woman. It's about what is that comes out from this diversity. And organizations that are looking at that are actually already embracing the new that is going to come up. So hence the reason why you've seen it on a low. It's not been an easy buy-in. And also just look at the board representation. A lot of the women that you have on boards, you'll always find that they are represented maybe from a financial point of view or legal. Most of them are because they have background in legal or finance or HR. And we're trying to say there's much more that the boardroom needs, and especially now, and COVID has taught us better. So we're really trying to create this awareness for organizations to see that it is not just because it's a woman, but it's a brain that is needed in the organization to be able to help the organization focus for better productivity.
Zura, how do you differentiate this? You know, I'm a bit confused.
Yes.
You say it isn't about the woman, and yet it is about the woman.
Yes.
Now, are you talking about affirmative action, or are you talking about a meritocracy? Or are you talking about a combination of both?
Yes.
Because you don't have to be exclusive.
Yes.
It can be a meritocracy that has affirmative action thrown into it.
Yes.
Because for the longest time, the representation of women,
Yes.
where meritocracy is concerned,
Yes.
has always worked against women.
Against women.
Yes, just being a woman put it at a disadvantage. Even if you look at the courses that were offered, for instance, at the time, maybe even before the time my generation went to university, there were courses that were assumed were courses women should take, like education.
Yes.
Okay? And if you took medicine and you want to specialize, pediatrics. And so, what is it that you're actually championing? Are you championing a cause for women?
Yes.
Or are you championing a cause for merit at whatever level and for whatever gender?
First of all, merit at whatever level and whatever gender, of course, has to be put in place because there is fairness. If you talk to a lot of women, and even if you see and talking as a woman, they say that we work 3 times as hard than the men for us to be able to actually show that we are capable. So already you come into society and the expectations that are there, and never looking at some of the things that a woman carries as responsibility across. But we're also natural naturers, and hence the reason why, and even looking at the future of boards right now, you need those kind of representation in your boards to be able to steer you across, because businesses are not operating how they've been operating before. We are seeing employees, a lot of things, culture being a bigger hindrance or driver into how organizations even, take charge of different things. And you'd always need at board level to have that gender lens element to be able to say who would drive us, who would see this. We've seen opportunities that have been there. You've seen a lot of companies, and even just talking of the likes of Standard Chartered, I remember last year there were the top that were there on the Equilib report that was done with the Nairobi Securities Exchange, and new faces, new voices. And if you look at some of the things that they have incorporated in the organization, they've got a program called SCARTS. You can see that, when we let mothers from maternity, I've got like close to 6 months, stay home, and you're paid. And when you come back, you actually get a promotion because of that. And you can see how that has gone into productivity of the organization. And even then the fathers, I mean, you get a child and it's quite a celebration and a motivation that even if you said, I'll leave at 3 because I need to go and help at home, it's one of those things that are respected. Now, in the effect, we are starting to leave what people are experiencing. And when organizations start seeing that, it wasn't like a long time ago, I think, when I was getting my son, I must have gotten 2 months maternity leave, and I'm like, wow, that was really short, and nobody understood that particular point. It just looked like you needed to do this. Now we've gone into places where organizations are seeing that, and we're seeing very good productivity because you've got this equipped mother who comes back, gives her best, and even now we have COVID that has taught us working from home. People have integrated that. So if you looked at it, the reason I'm saying it's not, when you look at it before women, and some of the experiences you've had in some boards is when they see you there as a woman, remember you're maybe one woman against 9 men or 8 men.
Why is it against? Okay. You're making it sound
in the presence of one woman in the presence of 9 men.
Of 9 men.
Is that better?
Is that
infinitely?
Okay.
Yes, in the presence of 9 men. And when you come in and you're at the board and you're seated and everybody says, wow, okay, I feel like a cup of tea. Zuhura, why don't you serve us some cup of tea? And you're like, my goodness, So I'm not coming here because I'm a woman. I'm coming here because I'm here to drive the business agenda.
Okay. So you haven't answered that. So is it meritocracy with what was it?
With a peppering of affirmative action.
Affirmative action.
Or
yes. Or is it mainly affirmative action?
I would say both in a way, in the context of it is affirmative action in the representation of what the woman brings on board to the boards is actually needed than saying it was just because the woman is as good as qualified like the man.
So can't we just be bold about it and say that it is affirmative action? Because the truth of the matter is that there is merit that women bring to the table.
Yes.
And I think that is something that can just be accepted across board.
Yes.
So now what we are saying is, because we know these elements have already been stacked in place, now you know that a woman is capable.
Yes.
She has the ability, she has the education, she has the expertise, she has the skill.
Yes.
Now, whereas there has been this patriarchal attitude towards this whole time, give this woman an opportunity in this directorship, give this woman an opportunity on this board. You already know she can do it, so we need to affirm the action and say, insist that she be given a place, and as opposed to say, she's a woman, she can't. No.
And that's the thing. I mean, if you look at the reason why, and we've been seeing a lot of positions that are dropped at middle level management for women. A lot of women say, I do not want to deal with that. It's a lot of politics and, so we're dropping them. So you're seeing, and right now I'm very happy we are steering further. We have seen even in the listed companies, we're now having chairpersons who are women. We're seeing Vivienne at Kenya Power. We are seeing Rita Kavashe. I mean, it's amazing at BAT. These are good stories that we want to show that we can actually do it. And the better part of it here is we need the opportunity to sit in those spaces.
Zuhura, I'm listening to you and it sounds like you need to remind yourselves as women that you can do it, and yet you actually can.
Doing it, yes.
It's there is a bias that men have.
Yes.
Okay? It's just a simple reality. And I would venture to say that bias is built in men primarily by their mothers.
Yes.
It is mothers who instill in the African male child this idea of you can't come into the kitchen because you're male, you can't do this because you're male. And then when they are grown up and their biases are fully matured, it then becomes an issue. But in the boardroom and in those places or those high echelons of power, are we suggesting that what women face, if it's discrimination, it is worse than what men among themselves also have to contend with? Or do women face a special kind of bias?
What kind of discrimination do the men face?
They're already
themselves?
At the table.
No.
Men are already there.
No.
They are not discriminated at all.
They are discriminated against.
How is it? Tell me.
For you to be, if you're talking about the commercial sector, it's like a club. If you don't have a certain kind of background, no matter how intelligent you are, for some it's a university you went to, for some it's a school you went to, for some it's the people you know,
the golf
club you're a member of. So that already exists. Okay? So, and if you don't have that background, God help you, the likelihood of you getting anywhere close to any board is almost next to zero.
Now imagine all of that and you're still at an advantage over the woman.
Imagine
all of those biases you've talked about, but you still have a leg up over a woman. That's what we're looking at.
You see, this is what I'm asking because it's a perspective that only a woman can give effectively. I can't give that on behalf of the women. Yes.
Yeah.
I can only say it from the perspective that I understand. That's why I asked the question. You see, you're also suggesting that overcoming these odds in itself is of necessity negative, and I'm saying it isn't.
Yes.
Because you have more hurdles to overcome, when you're in a position of authority, you're actually better equipped.
Yeah.
That is really what I'm saying.
What I would add on that is the experience is totally different. And normally it's because even of the numbers. I've been in boards where you're seated one woman or even you're two. If one is absent, you already then feel it. And also it's the reason I'm saying about creating awareness is because when you see the 30%, we target our members are chairmen and CEOs of organizations because we're driving it up there for them to see, for them to steer their businesses to the next level. They need to put in the diversity and inclusion aspect, and they have to have the 30% representation. They will start seeing a lot of things change around because I've experienced it where you're seated and you've got, 7 men in the room and in the context of even a lot of analysis and cases where a woman would say, Zuhura, what's your thought about it? And everybody's being asked, for example. And I'm like, yes, I'm looking at our P&L needs to be looked into, because then there is this other sneaky, development that might actually cause this. And you'll be told, okay, thank you. Okay, Eric, now tell us, what do you think about that? And then Eric goes and they say, oh, I like what Eric is saying. How can he, it already, I don't know whether it happens naturally, and it's something that has also happened, in real board sitting. So we're trying to just say, and we need the men. In fact, it's amazing that the 30% club, we normally have what's called the leaders walk, which we've done with various corporate organizations that drives the middle level to top level, that we are driving to Excore to be ready to actually lead. Then we have the boardwalk. This is for the women who are sitting on board, that they can actually meet and talk about some of the things, and peer-to-peer mentorship that is out to steer them to say, you know what, it can actually be done. Now, the best experience last time, we had one of the hosts who was a man, and then he came in, and I think there were a total of 5 men, and then the rest were women. And they said, now I feel what you go through in the board, because you literally just kind of go, it takes something away. But when there's more embracing, and actually our champions are the men, so it's nothing against them. It's more about when you pick that and you sit and you look at it like there's something Zura will offer on this table, then definitely you will actually start steering it. And when I come in, I don't look like I need to serve tea. And I'm not saying all the boards serve tea, right? But you start looking at it, what is she adding into this board that will steer the organization to the next
How
point?
do you deal with the cultural biases that we have within us, even as we enter this pursuit of boardroom positions?
Yes.
Because when I talk about cultural biases or cultural influences, like the role of men,
yes,
the role of women,
yes,
in that is embedded some very serious cultural biases.
yes.
So irrespective of how educated or how well trained somebody is, these biases play a role. How do you deal with them so that you can either use them to propel you to your people to the level you want them,
yes,
or how do you deal with them to ensure that you eradicate them?
The conversation that is out and how it has actually been easy is first having the men champion who are championing us, and second, taking it back home. When you talk to a mother, and I'll even talk to you, to a man, and I'll even talk to you and ask you.
You confused me there for a moment. I thought, okay, now, what is it about me that is making Zuhura want to talk to me like a mother? Okay, carry on.
You must have thought it's the design of your shirt. But then, anytime you bring it and say, if I asked you today, do you know somebody, even if I just took it back home, in your family, who can actually, a woman who has worked hard, who can represent this organization, this country, this, the Africa into the space that it needs to be, you will definitely have somebody. If I asked you, what about your daughter? If I asked you, your daughter in another 10 years, where do you see them? Can you see them leading an institution? You'll be like, wow. But anytime when it's taken away, you actually think, okay, these women, and it's amazing how we need to have the men champion this agenda and be able to say, you know what, we know they bring something different. We have had experiences where even architects have actually talked about, wow, those houses moved fast because we had a woman on the board who said, you can't put, the kitchen finish like that, because what does it take when you go buy a house, you call your wife and she looks through and say, we can't buy it. And did anyone think about them before development went up to say, we need the brains of that to drive this business? Yeah. So there are a lot of things that we bring in the market space that are literally going to take companies to next places where they've never been.
As you sit with the organizations, Zuhura, and you're having this conversation about, the need for you to include more women in the boards, what is it that they say are the challenges of actually tapping into the talent pool of women?
The challenges have been is, if you talked on both sides, men will tell you, where are those women? Yeah? And I will tell you, I've got a handful of them. And they're just asking, where can I go? So we've been also in the aspect of, we're encouraging more and more women to actually stand up and even state, I would like to serve on this particular board. And these are what I would be bringing on board. Because then we sit and think, okay, somebody will call us. So what we have seen is there's been a reputation in board appointments to various people. I mean, people we've known even when we were still younger to where we are now. And at the same time, it's because then we haven't been saying it in the open spaces. But the opportunity we have now is there have been a lot of programs that are even making women ready.
I want to discuss that when we come back and, look at, so where are these women that can then join the boards?
Yes.
Because, like you said, same names, even the men.
Yes.
You'll find same names. One person is a chair of 7 boards. There's what the experience that they've brought in terms of serving as one board and then rising to chair. And there's something that someone can argue. The reason why this person is being appointed into the various boards is because of how they have been able to steer other boards. Now, the women that are to go into these boards, where are they? Let's take a break at this point. 25 minutes after 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, having a conversation with Zuhura Odhiambo. She is the CEO of New Revenue Solutions Africa and also the leader of the 30% Club in East Africa. Today, we are talking about pushing for more women on corporate boards. Good morning.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources? Yet we have real challenges in this country.
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan? Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da! Japan? Yes! You will have to first learn Japanese. No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable. Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
All right, so mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning at 20, going to highs of 28. It's sunny in Nyeri at 16, highs of 26. 29 will be the high in Nakuru, where it's sunny at 18. It's also sunny in Eldoret at 17, going to highs of 26 today. Mostly cloudy conditions in Kisumu at 24, highs of 32. It's cloudy in Kakamega at 24, highs of 33 today. 32 will be the high in Mombasa. It's partly sunny at 26. Sunny conditions also in Malindi at 28, highs of 31. 28 will be the high in Kampala. It's mostly sunny at 24. Looking at cloudy conditions in Dar es Salaam at 28, highs of 32. 13 degrees in Johannesburg and going to highs of 22. We're looking at 34 now, and it's clearing up in Lagos at 27. Going to highs of 34 today. Partly sunny conditions in Kinshasa at 25. We'll see highs of 33 coming back down to lows of 25.
Chilled Spice. Traffic.
Okay, so we still have that traffic on Mombasa Road today. That's what we're going to look out for. You can use the Southern Bypass going into the CBD, longer route, but you will get there without too much of a wait. The Eastern Bypass looks all right. We still have that traffic at the former Taj Mahal area there as you're trying to then approach Eastern Bypass or use Outer Ring, also on that side. All right, coming off of Thika Road also, it's still jam-packed around Kiambu Road, but we're not at a bumper-to-bumper anymore. It is moving. So the train made it to the Dandora station. For those who sat on the train and those who decided to get off, just so you know, it actually made it to its destination. An hour later, but okay. Let's talk through the rest of the morning and see what traffic looks like in your neck of the woods. If you run into something, let us know. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
29 and a half minutes after 8 o'clock. Coming to 8:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Thank you very much for tuning in on SpiceFM, online on KTN Home. This and every weekday morning, you have in the studio CT Muga, Ndu Oko, Eric Latif. And our guest for this hour is Zuhura Odhiambo. She is the Chief Executive Officer of New Revenue Solutions Africa. We are having a conversation about a push for more women on corporate boards. She spearheads a club called the 30% Club in East Africa that is spearheading conversations about inclusion of women. As we were going to the break, I was asking, so where are the women to join these boards? Let's start from what CT had actually mentioned earlier. In terms of, from the upbringing, there are courses that are predetermined to be, these are where the women will go. Then in the corporate world, there are jobs that are known. So head of marketing, and you find a woman, you're okay. HR, you find a woman, you're okay. Finance, as if sometimes, you're okay. So boards will look for these competencies as well, because the board is looking. So we're going to be forming a board committee on audit. We're going to be forming a board committee on HR or investment committee, and we're looking for somebody who's got this competence. So if the pool is very much biased towards only one side, let's say the marketing expertise, that's what is going to be brought by women onto the board, don't you see that's a challenge?
Of course, that is a challenge in the context of we are asking and looking at the future boards. Things cannot be done the way they've been done before. Not because we didn't have any wins previously. We've had very good wins, but looking at how businesses are positioning themselves and talking from the angle of new revenue solutions, we have seen organizations that have tapped new revenue by just how they're changing how they are handling their boards and how they even have the board composition. We have, we know very well that there's some things that naturally women come with into the boards. And of course, you're sure that a woman handling the HR committee, you're definitely, getting so much mileage off it because we look at it differently. And hence the reason why organizations then would actually be able to appreciate that particular aspect. But then it does not define that we cannot be able to handle other departments as well, because you've seen very well qualified women who actually been in finance, whether they are in legal. I mean, there's serious. Look at our
Auditor General is a woman.
Yes, our auditor. Two times we had my friend Miss Agnes Odhiambo, of course, did a good job. We saw that, so you cannot be able to say that there are only particular jobs. Yes, there's some that we do better because naturally, and more about dealing again with the human resource angle. But again, we have opportunities to serve across where the same men are actually serving and qualified also to be able to serve there.
Do we find women holding back from putting themselves up in terms of candidature for these positions?
Yes.
On their own, even if the position is open, and you find women deliberately not going for those...
we have, and I would say women are champions. And what we are trying to really encourage more women is to stand up. I would tell you, for example, women look through every nitty and gritty. They have put a board position. They need this kind of qualification. And a woman will look at every speck of it, saying, but I'm not. They're already ready to say, I'm not. But the man who hasn't even achieved those is busy saying, I can, So they say, let me not put in because they were asking that you should have experience in. But, so we're trying to encourage, you shouldn't sell yourself less. But it's because also, as we tell you, we try to work 3 times as hard as men to be felt. So when you're halfway through, you keep thinking, I don't want to put this. But we're encouraging a lot of them and to be able to just stand because they've done amazingly well. But also we're encouraging a lot of mentorship that should be happening in that space because you should be able to see that woman who can get into places. And sometimes they just need that person who would be able to, an accountability partner who would tell them, you know what, you can do it. And now that you also got that job, this is how you would do it, and these are the challenges you're facing. This is what you do. Men do that. They meet in a club and talk about different challenges, and they say, actually, that's a different thought. I've never looked at it that way. While women would think, I needed to have known it right, so I don't need to ask much. But we're encouraging a lot of them to totally, let that go. Yeah.
When you say encourage them, do you have specific trainings?
Yes.
Do you have specific seminars? You do?
Yes, we do.
And do you have placement programs?
Yes. Yes, we do in the context of 30%. So we have the leaders work, which is mainly the leaders who are top in management, ExCo, and then also nurturing them to get to board levels. Then we have got the board work, which I talked about, which helps the women who are already on boards. What else do you need to equip yourself more? And even how are you then, what is it you're going through that you're able to then look at those who have been there before, and even mentors who are actually mentoring this. Then we've got the mentoring session that happens from schoolroom to boardroom, where we're actually looking at middle level because we're losing them at that particular aspect. So this is done from cross-company mentorship that is done in different companies that host, and you're able to always, we do it every month, and you're able to always, have a lot that you can share with this. Other than that, I'm an alumni of the Strathmore Business School, where I did the Women Directors Leadership Summit. Amazing program that we actually did that prepares you heavy as a woman director to be able to serve on that. I'm an alumni of the FKE Future Program. They've got a whole board-centric program that is actually out to just drive the women to be on boards. We have seen what Women on Boards is doing. Amazing program. We have seen Dr. Patricia Murugami. She's doing her masterclass for the board Women Ready that is also there, that is, can be used across. We've seen the women corporate directors. Again, I'm a member of Women Corporate Directors. We have enough women, very qualified, and majority of even the ones who sit in the top listed boards are all members of Women Corporate Directors, and it's again an international initiative, that has been there. So we are not saying the women are not there, and they are all out there. And
what's your representation with women leadership in the public sector?
Women leadership in the public sector, and this is one of the conversations that we have been having with the women in the public sector. We know very well that we have had discussions even with our able Professor Kobia in reference to just some of the things that we need to go into there, because the opportunity that we saw is there are opportunities that are there in the public sector, but again, there are a lot of women who fear the public sector in the context of...
But there are many women in the public sector.
And there are very many women in the public sector.
Many competent women in the public sector.
Yes.
And some incompetent. But...
It's a mix of both.
It's a mix of both. But
It's
there's a
human
reason
beings.
why I threw in that curveball.
Yes.
You see, policies that determine what happens in the private sector are not decided at the private sector level only.
Yes.
It's at the public level.
Yes.
The overarching thinking and policies that eventually guide these businesses start there.
Yes.
So if the changes that you want should have the effect that you desire,
Yes.
should they not be a push to have more women at that high level of public level policy making?
We have had those conversations. In fact, last week, of course, I was in partnership to drive the first Women Economic Conference that happened in Kenya, to help us reshape the Kenyan economy by unlocking the women's potential. And at the tail end of it, we had very good discussions at the We Hub, which is at the University of Nairobi, and of course the Ministry of Gender. Heavy conversations that have been started, that have been put down, and we're even working on a research that is going to be out there for the public sector. So it's key, and we have got strides that are already being developed in that context as well. Policies that are being put in place. I know we have tried not once, not twice, about the 2/3 gender rule, and we are still passionate that we will still be able to achieve that, because the successes we are talking about, even on the corporate side, you can imagine how big a success they can be in the public sector. And of course, re-engineering things to take Kenya to the next level. So it's conversations that are on. We are believing even this conversation on 30%, it's taken us long to even get here and see the Securities Exchange, come on board. It's been over 3 years of negotiating. So we believe that we are still going to get there.
Mm. Do you think that for want of a better word, the archaic thinking that has not allowed women into these circles previously, do you think that we're still working with the dregs of that? Or are we past that now and saying it's just now about, getting the work done? Do we still have that thinking that women should be in a particular place and not in powerful circles like boards, at heads of organizations? Is that thinking still crippling action?
Yes, the thinking is still there in some circumstances, and hence the reason you're seeing us create more awareness and even have a lot of champions and ambassadors who are actually championing this cause. Because, as he said, it's from the mothers that nurtured the boy child to kind of think this way, don't go to the kitchen, don't do this. And it seemed like the girls needed to go there. How would you change that in a day?
You can't,
to tell them that, now from today on, and the man has already grown. So, of course, it's coming. And also the best part of it is we're seeing new injection of what's coming in. Look at it. We would say in the future focus of the future boards, we are having even... we're encouraging people to even have younger board members because look at what COVID did. Disrupted companies. Everybody got digitalized. You could do whatever you can do from anywhere. And then opportunities were there. And the young minds are the ones that are driving that. Have we ever thought as a board now we actually need a 25-year-old, a 30-year-old to sit on the board? So with this, all disruptions that have come and the opportunity and the future of boards, we definitely need to change our thought about our board composition and ensuring also the gender aspect has been considered. Yes.
Let's talk about the success, because you've talked about the various programs that are there to prepare women to sit on the boards, and then the 30% club also that's championing this and saying, all right, so you are a corporate organization. Let's work with you on how you can start accommodating women into the boards. So how many, let me just use the word for want of a better word, how many placements have you had of women into boards of corporate organizations so far?
So far, we've had about, and that is from last year, about 25. I would say that. And the ones that we know and the ones that we have worked with and the ones even their organizations have actually been part of the 20% club. We have seen that, and we've even seen chairpersons. I mean, our first was, of course, Standard Chartered. We saw and the chair, who again Standard Chartered were the first to launch the 30% club in Kenya. And you've seen again from research last year how they're number one. So something is happening. So we've had that, and of course we are really steering this forward and encouraging more corporates to come in, and we can be able to give them reference on who are these able women, and these able women are there and they're board ready and they are across.
So if you look at the Nairobi Securities Exchange and the companies that are listed there, how many would you say have reached that threshold of 30%?
I would look at right now maybe about 15%. You look at 15%, and of course conversations have been on, and hence you've seen how Mr. Geoffrey Dundo has been passionate about this. He's really championing it, because when you look at NSC is heavy into, plays a vital role in the growth and the economy of this country. So it's quite an engine that cannot be ignored in the context of that. So them taking a lead around it should tell us something about how organizations need to actually be able to focus on the future of boards.
Have you considered a situation where your efforts may bear very, very successful fruit to the point where the representation of boards is actually predominantly women?
We have seen, that's a good one. We've seen boards that, in fact, and maybe not publicly listed companies, we've seen private companies that have actually had over 70% representation of women. And again, it always depends also on the kind of, business you are in.
And how have they fared?
wow, I mean, they've had very good. In fact, the growth path has been so big, but then also because they had been given that opportunity. As I told you, we all work 3 times as hard. They must also be putting in so much to be able to just show this can actually happen. And we've seen it steered to the next level. So that can happen, and it is also going to happen. It's of course, it's forecast that in another 20 years, we will be having the men trying to, fight for the even 30% representation
in 20 years.
In boards in another 2025. This is focused because we are seeing a lot of, look at the classes. Let's just take it back. Evening classes, if you have ever attended, you'll have heavy representation of women. We are seeing the drive that we are giving them. We know what is there and what would happen in many years because we are having more leaders come in space. And hence the reason why. Imagine if we had the men coming in as heavy ambassadors around this, then it's easier that even then we are carrying the boy child, because the boy child in many years to come will actually be in this same space. So it calls for leaders like ourselves to be able projectionally to look at it and say, how are we able to always put this as a balance? Let it just happen naturally, where it doesn't get now there's an over focus around this, and there are bigger wins, and we know that we all are important to sit on the board together.
There's a question that was asked earlier, and you even went into it a little bit, and which is on, shall I call it, the confidence of women to apply for positions. This is not just about boards, but it's about positions. Right now, the conversation around counties is, the BBI says that if a governor is of one gender, then the deputy shall be of the other gender. And the bigger assumption here is that the governor shall be male, the deputy governor shall be female. This kind of mentality is not just among the men, but also among the women, in terms of sort of limiting yourself to what you can do. Look at the number of women who applied for position of Chief Justice.
Yes.
Look at the number of women who applied for position of Judge of the Supreme Court vis-a-vis the number of men who applied for this. And there's even a point in time when a commission had actually sent out applications, advertised for applications, and they had to redo it because they required more women to apply, and yet women had not applied. And these are positions that women who have championed the cause of women have actually qualified for. They didn't. Those who were in the forefront of championing women causes are not applying for these particular jobs. So what is it that needs to change to encourage the women? As long as a position has been, we should have seen 7 women applying for the position of Chief Justice and say 3 men. Why is it still that we still have fewer and fewer women putting themselves out there for these jobs?
I will answer it in 2 different ways. First is because, and what I discussed before is always thinking, wow, do I really want to get there? Because you realize that even how women have been represented, and sorry to talk to the media as well, media has always been home. When something happens or a woman leader does something, oh my goodness, you should see how it is actually put out there. When a man does the same thing, it's quiet or it's minimal, and such things have never been the things that attract more women to come in. They're like, wow, my company, my family is going to be splashed all over. Let me just not take it. Let me take this and not be able to put myself out there. So it's about how have we been bringing up these women? How many times have we celebrated the women? We are out to, talk bad about what one woman has done or the other for so long, and we're not able to even bring and celebrate some of our own that have been there. And then the other bit has been, we need more and more people encouraging these women. I believe, and every time when somebody's looking for someone, if I ask the 3 of you, do you guys know anyone who could be able to do this and that? You're sure you have somebody.
Yep.
So how many people are owning these conversations to be able to say, we know this woman, Zuhura can sit in this position. She can be able to drive this and that, and will be able to take it. And even if Zuhura is, you tell me, Zuhura, you know what? You can do it. And I know you can do it. And you're here. We are here for you. We want to see how that is championed, because we're losing a lot of them down there. I know I did the first, in fact, from the last election, I did the first, as New Revenue Solution, we did the first women governors task force team that was put together, because I was just excited to see for the first time we had 3 female governors, and it's amazing that, you know, we were like, let's sit down, let's see what can be done, what can be broken down to deliver your manifesto to the people. This is encouraging. Of course, in the next election, we expect to see more women actually take those positions, because it has shown that they can actually be able to deliver. So we are encouraging more and more, but even in the public space for them to put, in fact, I think I saw some adverts the other day where they say women are encouraged to apply. You know.
But Zura, 3 out of 47.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But from none.
This is really my point.
Yes.
You see, if you keep referring to the bad old days,
yes,
then you are lowering that threshold considerably.
Yes. Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
If you look at the education sector and how education has opened up for all Kenyans, and I say all,
yes,
then opportunities should do the same.
Yes.
The point I'm trying to make is, if we are talking politics, I would argue that the greatest hindrance to that progression that you're speaking of are the women themselves.
Yes.
Because it's the women who don't vote for their own. It's the women who don't see the need to
present themselves as candidates.
Exactly.
Yes.
So the limitations, yes, men play an important role in creating it, but women play a significant role
Yes.
in ensuring that they don't get to these very same things.
And it's what we have to address now. I mean, look at the population. We know very well we have got heavy representation, that close to 50 going above women representation across all the counties. So you can imagine when you state, and yes, I agree with you, and it's one of those that we're trying to, encourage them, for them to see, and even encourage them from them seeing by example. Did you see this was done by that, and this is where we have been.
Zura, how many women do we have as MPs, elected MPs? I'm not talking about women rep. Women rep, it has to be a woman. So MPs.
Constituency MPs.
Yes.
Right now.
How many do we have? It's not the numbers I'm interested in. It's the concept. Because the numbers represent an idea and a concept. You see, if you see women in the public domain, the influence of them being in the public domain, the public sector being elected, plays an even bigger role than that of women in boardrooms. Because boardrooms are secluded. Not many people are even aware. Like, if you ask me who this new chairman of the board of Standard Chartered, I will not tell you, because I don't know.
Yes.
I saw it and I said, oh, okay. And that was it.
Yes.
All right? But if you're talking about political representation, they make a bigger
visibility.
Yes.
And that's why I always support that position of woman rep, because it provides us with that. We can see more. We can see 47 more women in positions of leadership.
Yes.
And what that does is it makes you see that there are many possibilities.
Yes.
Same thing with nominating women to parliament.
Yes.
The way it used to happen, those 10 slots. People like Millie Odhiambo were first nominated, and then they went and they contested against men, and they won.
And they have continued to win.
Because they had that
were
platform.
given an opportunity to show their worth.
Yes.
And I think that's when you talk about this placement, that's why it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they would not be given an opportunity to show people what they can actually do.
Yes.
Now, when that position is created, then those who come out and are able to actually go and duke it out have an opportunity to show people, look, I am a woman, yes, but this is what I'm able to do. Without the initial opportunity that has to be clearly forced.
Yes.
And I put force in quotes. Without the forceful action to put them there, in many cases, you're going to lose out on gems. And if that doesn't happen, then they will not be able to show you what they can actually do.
And that's
the point of this affirmative action.
And that is why we still encourage that. We hope this can be had, that we still can have that women representation for every county. I understand where BBI is coming from in the context of creating more positions. But then again, we know there are communities that will never really ever front any woman to be able to, take any leadership. So you'll be amazed that some communities will never have any representation for women, to even
Why
serve.
not in law?
Yes.
Why?
So we encourage the 47, the women rep position to still be there.
Well, there'll now be senators if the BBI passes. If, as we conclude this conversation, I just want to read this comment out to you. I have a problem with Zuhura. She should push for gender equality for its sake and not focus only on women. Let us focus on humanity as a whole. Champion men and women alike, and even youth, or else it slides towards feminism, which could be counterproductive as a narrative. Respond to that as we say goodbye.
Okay, so thank you for your question. Yes, I'm not pushing just for women, and I'm trying to be clear that it's not about gender and it's about business. It's about the opportunities that have been created. It's about the opportunities that sit there. It's about seeing that it can be a better place if there's diversity that's included in everything that we do in regards to leadership. So if we can have more and more representation in the spaces where they have been male dominated, you'll be able to see what would actually be a plus for all of us in our productivity, in how organizations, handle their leadership and encourage the future leaders to be able to also come and serve in very well.
Zuhura Odhiambo, CEO of New Revenue Solutions Africa, and leader of the 30% Club in East Africa. Asante sana for joining us today, and we wish you all the best as you continue this push for women representation on the boards.
Thank you.
We'll
Thank you so
again
much.
Soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you as well for tuning in to KTN Home this morning and catching the radio experience on TV. This happens every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on SpiceFM. You can tune in to SpiceFM 94.4 Nairobi, 87.9 in Mombasa, 102.5 in Kisumu. Nakuru is 96.0, 96.7 in Eldoret, Nyeri 90.9 and Malindi 97.7. Keep it right here. In the next hour, we talk about vaccines. So the vaccines have reportedly been said that they'll be arriving, allegedly.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They'll be arriving later tonight. So what is the program for that, and how is that going to be rolled out? Keep it right here. It's 5 minutes to 9.
Spice FM, Nyeri.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan? Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da! Japan? Yes! You will have to first learn Japanese. No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable. Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
So, that conversation about having more and more women on the corporate boards, an important conversation and an important step to be taken. Yeah, you see, when you sit on a board and actually you have more. It's not about what does she bring to the table. It's just about sitting there and the same way you go to in an office, and there are people of both gender. Have the same people of both gender in board meetings.
Yeah, I mean, it seems really easy to be able to say and then just
not just say that the secretary.
There's a quota. There's a quota that we need to fill. So just make sure. Do we have 2-3 women there? Okay, then we're good.
We're good.
I think that from the very beginning, you need to understand that there has to be that balance. Look, I do understand that it's going to take a very long time to get people, over these hang-ups that they've had. And interestingly enough, some of these hang-ups are not conscious. There's an unconscious way of thinking or way of doing things that naturally just leaves women out. Granted, it has gotten better and better over time, but then as much as it is unconscious, now there needs to be a conscious effort to deal with that.
To bring in more women.
To bring in more women, absolutely, it does.
And I think it also has to go hand in hand with all those programs that are, preparing women to get ready for boards. It's about getting them onto the boards and getting their stories out, so that you don't just have 25 women who have joined the board and there's no story about them. When you say, for example, Rita Kavesha is now the chairperson of BAT Kenya, right? And she's been GM of General Motors. Tell that story over and over again and show them what she's doing. When you say about the MD of Kenya Breweries and what she's doing, when you talk about the chair of other boards and say what she's doing, the former chair of Standard Chartered Bank, what she's done, these stories then we have to start normalizing the story of when you say so-and-so on the board and the name that you're putting out there is a woman's name. We have all to work towards that. Exactly. But I think people like now, the 30% club, have their job cut out because it's for them to normalize it, not just push it and then get it and then keep quiet, but push it and get it and then show that yes, this board, for example, is celebrating and among the members this number of women, or the chairperson who's a woman, or the chair of the audit committee who's a woman, or work to be done. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Situation Room. Keep it right here. In the next hour, we talk about vaccines. It's now 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM.
All right.
Nairobi.
So most of the commuters have gotten into town. That's a good thing. Looking at other traffic that's still spilling over on Thika Road today as you try to get to the Pangani underpass, but then moving a little bit more smoothly thereafter into the city. Wangari Maathai Road today is looking good. Getting you into the CBD at a faster rate than sticking to Thika Road all the way through to the Globe Cinema overpass. Okay? Now, you must understand that today, for those not wearing masks in PSVs and overloading countrywide, there will be a crackdown tomorrow. We've already heard. So please try, not just because there will be a crackdown, because it's actually a good thing to do and protect yourselves. All right. So let's look at traffic on Mombasa Road a little bit, getting into the city centre. Right around the Uhuru Highway, it's jam from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout all the way through to Westlands this morning, guys. So that's what we're still looking out at. All right. SpiceFM KE, talk to us on Twitter, text on 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
It is
the only way to start your...
This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's begin with the day's proverb. CT.
Right. He who runs after good fortune runs away from peace.
He who runs after good fortune runs away from peace. Okay. Ndu. Vaccines.
Okay, so they're landing in the country today. We're looking at, sometime after midnight or around that time. And then, of course, everybody's asking questions at this time. Who's going to be able to get it when? One thing is very clear at this moment, that they said we're dealing with the frontline workers first. And the majority of those are health workers. And then probably then at some point moving towards security workers, teachers, and the like. Then also those who are in the aged bracket, those who have pre-existing conditions, other comorbidities, they will also be looked at. Now, let's look at some of the details and those who are being put on the spot right now when it comes to actually making sure that the rollout of this vaccine is done in a manner in which, everybody will be able to benefit when they need it, and to make sure that it is clear in terms of transparency who does what where. And we're going to need some help with that today to be very clear about who is going where, when, and how long others are going to have to wait.
And the person to help us is the person who's been following this story from day one, and this is Dr. Mercy Korir, Standard Group's editor in charge of health and science. Good morning, Dr. Ari.
Good morning, everyone. Good to hear from you and to see you.
Good morning.
Well, good to hear you and not to see you. Well, it's not good not to see you, but yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Mercy,
Mhm.
the
Yes.
vaccines are finally, that day, the 15th day of February, has finally arrived.
Yes. Finally, what we thought was a Valentine's gift is 2 weeks. Not too late, but yeah, 2 weeks. It's here.
Okay. But until they land, we still can't say for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah.
you've heard what Ndu has said. So there's this whole plan that has been prepared by a team that was set up to work on the vaccination plan. What does that plan entail? So the vaccine arrives next.
Okay, so they have the whole vaccination rollout is planned in 3 phases, starting obviously this March, hopefully, till the next financial year, which is 2022-2023. So when it comes, they are focusing on healthcare workers, and healthcare workers here includes everyone who works in a hospital facility or in a healthcare facility. So if you're the guard at the gate, you're considered as high risk, so they'll be vaccinated. If you're a mortician, you're included. If you clean, you're a janitor in the hospital, it's included as part of the list of the healthcare workers.
Okay.
Then the other ones, they're calling the critical or essential workers, and here they have teachers in mind. Because we have open schools, learning has to continue, and then you have your security personnel for obvious reasons. So the thinking around this by government is that you want to make sure that your essential areas of the economy are covered from or cushioned from the effects of the pandemic or for people falling sick. So those are about 1.25 million people in the initial phase. The
In
second
total?
one, yes, all of them are 1.25.
Does the healthcare
Between-
worker include those who work in the private sector, or is it only those in
Yes.
public?
No. Everyone who handles a patient is included as a healthcare worker. Everyone. So this whole list, they have put it at 1.25 million people. Remember, the country has about, let's say, 6,000 healthcare facilities. And these are from your big facilities to the small facilities. So I think, well, maybe that number is sufficient. I don't know. But that is the number that they have here as the target population.
Okay.
Then from there now, when they start the phase 2, they'll target people who are above 50 years of age, because we've seen that people that have been old have been at high risk of COVID-19, severe disease, and those who are above 18 years of age with pre-existing conditions or terminal illnesses. It could be a cancer, it could be diabetes, hypertension. Anyone above 18 years with those who fits that criteria is targeted for vaccination. And the reason it's above 18 years is because these vaccine studies have not been done yet for minors. So to be safe, you vaccinate those who've already been studied by the vaccination. So the target population there is 9.76 million Kenyans. And then now in phase 3, when they envision that they will have enough supplies of the vaccine, they will target now people above 18 years of age who are in congregate settings. So you're looking at prisons, you're looking at your crowded areas like informal settlements, hospitality and tourism industry. So that's about 9.8 million. No, they've said congregate settings. When they were explaining congregate settings, I don't remember universities being among them. But remember, the most vulnerable in that population will have already been vaccinated in phase 2. Because you're prioritizing, you want your most vulnerable to be vaccinated, not necessarily those that are healthy and the immune system can work.
Maybe the one
so
that been
in
captured. 'Cause
total,
I'm thinking about universities that have hostels. So if those could be considered congregate, people in congregate situations.
So,
Not-
no, they have it as, I was just checking, persons in care homes, prisons and detention centers, in shelters, street families, densely populated settlement, informal settlements, individuals working in entertainment, restaurant, retail and banking sector. So those are the people who are being targeted in phase 3.
Okay.
Well, universities would make sense, but this is what the government has put out as the people they are targeting. So, and in total, they are targeting 30% of the population between now and 2023. So hopefully by then, people will have developed enough immunity around from those who get infected, and also now from getting these vaccinations rolled out. But for this particular shipment that is coming in tonight, that is expected to come in tonight, they are issuing it out in 2 batches. The first of about 495,000 doses to level 5 and 6 facilities across the counties, and then to military facilities, level 4 military facilities, so that vaccinations can start immediately. So word is that these vaccinations will start as soon as Friday. We are waiting to see, and we expect that as a show of as a show of confidence in the vaccination program, that we'll have top government officials being the first ones to be vaccinated. But we wait and see.
Actually, I was about to ask that. So in all this, where do our MPs and ministers and the president and his deputy and the former prime minister, where do they fit? Phase 1, 2, 3?
So I think for the president, the deputy, the top guys, I think just like we saw yesterday, President Nana Addo, who had his vaccination on camera as a show of confidence in the vaccination program, we expect that they would be at the front line, setting example to the country on taking the vaccine. But to the rest of them, I think they should just wait in line like everyone else. Where if you're not a healthcare worker, you're not a healthcare worker, you wait for phase 2. In phase 2, if you do not fall in any of those categories, you wait for phase 3. So, or if you don't fall in any of those categories, you have to wait until
as TCT would normally say, this is Kenya, where we are. Do you really think that we are going to see the caliber of these individuals waiting, like you and I, everybody else, in line for when it becomes available?
I hope they do. I hope they do. Just we should have something done differently for one, really, and give the people who are in most need the priority and the chance to be vaccinated. But we wait and see. But personally, I would expect the president, the first lady, for example, to be the first person to get the vaccine, because it's more symbolic than anything else, because you want to signal to the country that this is something that we have faith in. This is something that we expect. It's good for the country. So if not for anything else, for me, it's about the symbolic nature of it, to be good for them to get the vaccine also anyway, because they are at high risk. Considering
they're out there campaigning and, So the other question is, last time when you were here and you were having the conversation about how is it likely then to be rolled out in terms of information being given out, when would the healthcare workers know this is the day that I'm supposed to go and get my jab? When would the teachers and security personnel know this is the day and this is the place that I'm going to get my job? Is that clear?
No, not at all. In fact, that's one of the gray areas. Talking to the healthcare workers on the ground, they have no information. They are quite literally getting information from the media, just like every other Kenyan, because I don't know what has been happening. Maybe it's our nature, but probably government has been busy lobbying and, looking for the vaccines. I don't know. But that information has not really gone to all the healthcare workers. But from what I understand from covering this story is that they've set up a system. I think it's called Chanjo, where you pre-register first and input all your details, which is first one as a means of getting your information and biodata. 2, to give consent, so that now they're able to schedule you at the nearest healthcare facility where you're supposed to get the vaccine. And then the third or the fourth thing about pre-registering is that, remember, people have to get a second dose after 2 months. So Kenya has decided that the interval between the first and the second dose will be 2 months, which is 8 weeks. So by pre-registering, one will be able to be reminded of when their next vaccine jab is, and they're also given an appointment for that time. So this has not yet happened. Let me say I'm not aware of it yet, but it's one of the stories that we are following up today. What I understand, however, is that there will be a training session today and tomorrow for some of these healthcare workers and some of the officials from the counties and the ministry to sensitize them or to give them information about the vaccine. So I think, I don't know, maybe it's things are happening last minute. I don't know how they'll quickly roll out that information. But what I know is that on the ground, healthcare workers are still asking for, information. They're still looking for this information, official information, so that they know what to do or where to go. So that is still work in progress.
Mas, let me ask this question. In your opinion as a medical doctor, of course of great repute, what do you think would be an adequate time for people to acquire expertise if it's needed, or the ability to actually be able to administer not only the vaccine, but also to advise on it? Because when people come for vaccination, they will already just come for vaccination. They will probably want some more information.
This should have happened in January. The moment they told us the vaccine will arrive in February, this information, these conversations with the healthcare workers should have started at that time, because this is not like it's a vaccine that was found yesterday. The West have had this vaccine. People have been learning along the way. So for me, we should have started this in January so that you have as many healthcare workers as possible. One, informed. Two, remember, these are also, apart from healthcare workers, first of all, they are mothers, they are fathers, they are people's children. They are human beings who also need to make an informed decision of whether to get jabbed or not. So this information should have already happened. And thirdly, these are people who would make very good ambassadors for vaccine acceptance. So if they do not have any information, if they have not had time to look around and read about this information, the vaccines that Kenya is getting, they would not be the best ambassadors at the moment, because they do not have that information. So if somebody comes and asks, for example, I was seeing yesterday one of the government officials, I was seeing people who are allergic to eggs cannot get the vaccine. If a healthcare worker does not know how to respond to that, then people will not know what to do, because the correct information, and according to what is happening in the West, is that, for example, people who have allergies, non-allergies, or prone to allergies should have a conversation with a doctor or the healthcare worker about the safety of the vaccine. People who are pregnant or breastfeeding should have that conversation with the healthcare worker, not that they are excluded from getting the vaccine. They can get, but they should be able to have a detailed conversation about themselves, their allergy, their profile, so that they can make an informed decision thereafter. So if our healthcare workers do not have all of this information, then I can say I foresee a bumpy road ahead, maybe in the next 1 or 2 weeks, when people are trying, to get all of these things, because this is not, I don't know, sio kama peremende tunaenda kupeana. There are lots of things that we need to know and understand. Exactly.
Mercy, I know you have a very busy day today, so we want to let you go now, and then hopefully we'll catch up with you tomorrow after they're here. And once you say now, they are here, when they are going to Kitengela, and then...
In fact, I will be there at the airport. My plan is to be there at the airport as they arrive and make sure they go to Kitengela, so that tomorrow when you have me, nitasema niliona kwa macho yangu manne.
Exactly. Wewe mwenyewe binafsi.
Yes. Mimi binafsi niliona.
Thank you very much, Mercy. And also tomorrow you'll tell us about the cost of this and the private sector's role.
It is free. Yeah, it is free for everyone. It is free because the government has already paid. Remember, we are getting this vaccine for free through the COVAX facility. So it is free. Nobody should pay anything for the vaccine. So I'm just reporting what serikali imesema.
Okay.
Then they were considering allowing private sector to import the vaccine.
Yeah.
So obviously that is now where we start getting jitters. But so far the vaccine will be free and it will be available in all level 5 and 6 public health facilities, but at the moment for healthcare workers.
Dr. Mercy Korir, Group Editor in charge of Health and Science in the Standard Group. Asante sana for joining us. Have a lovely day.
Thank you very much.
And
Have a
night.
good one.
Thanks, Doc.
Yeah,
Early
thank
morning.
you.
See you tomorrow.
All right.
Thank you. 19 minutes after 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take a break, see how the weather looks like. That Emirates flight will be taking off later this evening, coming this way. Tell us, how's the weather there?
Spice FM.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan? Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da! Japan? Yes! You will have to first learn Japanese. No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable. Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
Okay, it's mostly cloudy in Nairobi at 20. We'll see highs of 28 today. The highs will be 26 in Nyeri, where it's mostly sunny at the moment at 17. 20 degrees and sunny in Nakuru, highs of 29. 26 the high in Eldoret. It's sunny at 20. Partly sunny in Kisumu at 26, going to highs of 32. 33 the high in Kakamega, 27 and partly sunny right now. It's 28 and partly sunny in Mombasa, and it's mostly sunny in Malindi at 27. Rain showers now in Kampala at 25. We'll see highs of 28. Mostly cloudy conditions in Dar es Salaam, giving rain later, highs of 32 and lows of 27. In Johannesburg, it's mostly sunny mostly cloudy at 14, highs of 22, and sunny conditions now in Lagos. The haze has cleared, highs of 34. It's mostly cloudy in Kinshasa, also expect a rainy morning, highs of 33 and lows of 25. Beijing, cloudy now at 5, highs of 8 and lows of -3. It's 1 degree, getting a little bit chillier in Paris. We'll see highs of 18 today and lows of 5. London is a hazy now at 5, highs of 13 and lows of 4. Getting into Tuesdays, rather chilly in New York at -1. 1 will be the high and the lowest will be -1.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice. Spice everything.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
So there's a plan.
94.
Arrive, get escorted to Kitengela. On Friday, start the campaign. Patient 001 gets the jab, and then it rolls out to the other parts of the country. There's a plan. It's just that just because you don't know it doesn't mean there's no plan.
Actually, if I don't know it, then it doesn't
there's
exist.
no plan.
I mean, put it very simply. However, there is a plan. And why I believe there is a plan, we have a really good track record when it comes to immunization. This isn't something that we are new at. And this is not something that the Ministry of Health... What is new is the virus. What is new is this vaccine. But the process of getting this thing done and done well, if only our esteemed government could up their game in communicating effectively. If only. Because then we'd be able to know, anticipate, but also the good work that they do could also be known. Half the time you're in the dark guessing, trying to figure out.
Maybe, City, on the other hand, it's the issue of timing your communication so that you don't create confusion. Time your communication. The people that need to know, for example, that it's arriving already know that it's arriving. The people that need to know that they need to be expecting these things in Kitengela already know they're expecting them.
Let me go with your logic.
The people that need to know that they need to attend training today and tomorrow, as Dr. Mercy Korir has told us, already know that they need to attend
According
training
to
today
newspaper reports,
and tomorrow.
already 400 people have been trained. Okay? So that they haven't been trained. You are saying communication, timely. Okay. What was timely about the dates that were given previously? What is timely about it? It isn't the timeliness. It is the content, the truth content of those messages. Don't start saying you are raising people's hopes that it's coming. Simply state the fact and let people deal with the facts.
So say, I don't know when it's coming.
The earliest we expect this, given the negotiations that are taking place, April. If it comes in March, we were able to get this thing sooner than we had anticipated, and here they are. Yes. But you tell us from January, and then it comes in March.
But what if the earliest that they expected to get them was February?
No.
Or mid-January?
No. The issues around vaccines were clear in this sense. Vaccine nationalism had taken the center stage of this whole thing. People who had the money, people who had contributed to the development of it were getting their first stab at it. That was done. So the issue of other people who hope to get freebies, you're not going to be first. All right? They need to fill their coffers and have more than their fill of the vaccines. Then the discussion around COVAX and the details of it. If nations that are supposed to be first world nations are still grappling with the details of how to roll out, who to roll out to, you're talking about small percentages in the lower 20 percentile. So where do you think we stand? Where do you think, even if they are being allocated, where do you think we would stand?
I think it's already clear there was some kind of confusion, even on the world scale, on the global scale. There was confusion in terms of who was getting what. And I don't think anybody was at the point whereby they said January 15th, we're going to have these things. So then already you're prescribed with this way in which to go about it. We've made the application. We've already been given an indication that we will get these vaccines. At that point, even when you're being told, all right, we'll try to have them to you by February, give it a month. It's not going to hurt anybody. But then it just goes to show that the and if there's anything, we've talked here on different cadres of conversations, so many things, whether it's political ambitions, whether it's what a certain ministry is doing to better the lives of people, the communication is always wanting. And I think it's another opportunity where it's showing us that just give the communication, no matter how. Do you remember what happened with education last year? When schools are going to open, whether they're not going to open, whether there will be an exam, whether there will not be an exam, whether there will be home learning, whether those who are in home learning will be charged. Good grief.
Was all that necessary?
Back and forth. And then the thing is, you already know people that you're dealing with. The minute you give them any kind of information, no matter how small, no matter how big, they are going to run with that. So if you're not prepared,
questioning.
But if you're not prepared to give the full information, don't.
That example that you've given is actually very apt. Education. Magoha would say, I do not have an answer. That answer shall come from the Ministry of Health. What would parents say? This guy, he doesn't even know what he's doing. Who put him there?
That's all right.
Okay, so are we opening? Are we not? He says, maybe we shall open. Maybe in September. Maybe. But I will tell you when I'm told by Ministry of Health. What do you guys say? Oh, now you said September. Why? I said maybe, boss.
Eric.
And I even put a rider to that and said maybe, but upon advice from the ministry.
Eric. Their job is to do what he was doing. He can't control our reactions. Okay? The reactions are born out of a trust deficit that keeps growing. It isn't lessening. Given what Professor Magoha did, or the way he communicated, with hindsight, people will say, at least Magoha was telling us. With all the discussion, there's always, but Magoha was telling us the truth. When he didn't know, he said he didn't know. What about the toing and froing by Kenya National Union of Teachers? We can't allow this. No, we are going to allow this. I mean, you wonder, what are you talking about? State what you know to be the truth and just let people go back and forth and discuss it and give their views. But you have stated it. But when you keep changing with it, what you're doing with the trust deficit is you're
eroding it.
Yes, exactly.
You're eroding the trust that you already had.
Kenyans will talk about it. We will debate it. We will be negative about it. That's what we do. It's not your job to make it worse.
Okay, it's 9:30. So we want to take a break, see what's happening on the roads, and then we'll take your calls. So the vaccines are arriving tonight. What do you think? What do you feel? The vaccines are arriving tonight. What do you think? What's topmost on your mind when you hear vaccines are finally landing in Kenya? Okay? What do you think? 0719-012-600, SpiceFM KE on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they're getting per year, how much inconvenience they're causing, as much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Looking much better in most parts of the city this morning. It's not so bad on Mombasa Road, but then you're going to get to Huru Highway and you'll be stuck a little bit as you're trying to get into the CBD. Jogo Road looking better onto Landis and into the CBD as well. Coming off of Thika Road, slow all the way through to the overpass at the Globe Cinema. But you should be fine if you use Wangari Maathai. The bypass is working beautifully this morning as well. Okay, so officially out of traffic hour, but we're going to see a little bit more of that through earlier parts of the morning. Okay, through the day, talk to us if you need to. If you get stuck somewhere, at least let other people know where there is a hold up ahead or where there's a good route to use to avoid traffic. All right, SpiceFM KE, that's how you can get in touch on Twitter. You want to text? Do so on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
12600. Let's start in the room, okay? Vaccines are coming. What do you think, Ndu?
I think that it can be divided into two right now. I think there are those who know exactly what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, and they're already aware of who it needs to be given to first. My anxiety comes then now in following the plan, which has always sometimes been an issue. If there's a plan, following the plan and actually getting it done. And then really putting at bay the anxiety that everybody else feels in terms of asking questions and giving the right information. And I feel that the information is not going to come out as it should. That, I mean, very clearly coming from Dr. Corrier that, you know, the health, and it's clear in terms of that messaging that health workers will start off first. But even within the health workers themselves, there's no information as per where do I go, who do I go to, where, how do I show my job ID, what do I do? In terms of that information, it isn't clear. And I'm worried because the information is not coming out clearly in terms of what everybody has to do. If the vaccine had not come, then maybe I would not be so, but we are here now, it's coming today, and people don't know what they're supposed to be doing as from tomorrow. The people who are supposed to be getting that initial jab if it's starting tomorrow, if it's starting
It's not
on
very
Thursday, the ceremonial first jab is going to happen at Kenyatta National Hospital come Friday. Now, after that,
does it happen on weekends?
do we go on Saturdays? Do I take a couple of hours from my job and go get jabs? Will
Because
they
I
come
work
to
in a hospital, is
me?
it coming here?
Does it come to me if I work in a level 5, or must I find the closest one in my area? You know, and again, remember, we had a successful polio drive in this country. Successful vaccinations for other diseases in this country, and worked very well. But the communication and the messaging was clean. The lines were drawn very nicely. Everybody knew what and knows what they're supposed to be doing across board. Right. I understand this is a new disease and all of that, but still, the infrastructure is already in place. The information is now what needed to fill the holes. And for me, that's where my anxiety comes.
Let's ask Lydia in Nakuru. Lydia, good morning.
Good morning. How are you people?
We are fine, thank you. How have you been?
I've been fine. Jua iko.
Jua imewaka Nakuru.
Now, what I wanted to say
Yes.
is that I heard that it was to come yesterday at midnight. I don't know if it has come, and now the question.
It is tonight. It is today at midnight.
It is today at midnight.
Yes.
And then people, we are really asking because this vaccine, many people, they do say this vaccine, maybe it will not help, maybe it will not help anyone. Maybe it is for just prevention.
The whole information about what the vaccine then should do and what you need to know about the vaccine. So you don't know any of that information?
Any of that information we don't know.
Yeah.
And then what I'm supposed to ask is that who is going to start? Because we all hear that it is doctors, teachers,
and security,
and many other people. The old people will come first, or it is the doctors,
the
or
old
teachers,
people,
or
those above 50 years, will be in phase 2. So the first phase is those who work in health facilities. That we are talking about doctor, nurses, lab technicians, cleaners, security people who work. Anybody who works in a health facility is in this category. Also in the category is security officers. This is police officers. And then also teachers. That is phase 1. Phase 2, which will come in later, is now where we're saying people who are above 50 years will get, and other people who are not yet 50, but they have those underlying conditions. Those ones will also get. And then phase 3 is then now where we're going to the other sectors of the public.
Okay.
At least now you have some bit of information. Thank you very much, Lydia.
I heard it was to come yesterday at night. I don't know.
It will come tonight. That's what we've been told. It's tonight. So tomorrow we'll be saying that whether it has arrived or not.
Okay.
Asante, Lydia.
Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
James in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm very well.
Okay. What is it? What do you feel? Are you confident that the government is on top of this vaccination program?
I think they are on top of it, but we again starting this conversation on the wrong foot. I would say this whole story of the COVID vaccine is being misunderstood, that once you get the vaccine, then you forget about sanitizers, you forget about masks and social distancing, which is not the case. It is being bandied as the silver bullet, that once you get it, you are in that category of the safe one, which is also not the case. I think where now, what needs to be, and I think that is why the anxiety from everyone who is speaking is, when is it coming, when can I get it? And it is like there'll be a line outside Kitengela, come, because once you do it, it is going to make you safer, which is also not the case. So I think for me, this is where you guys come in, the media, the health workers, the government itself, everyone is saying, fine, the vaccine is here, but that doesn't mean that you stop following the measures that have kept you safe until now? Washing your hands, using masks, using sanitizer, social distancing. That is the conversation you're supposed to have, because
should
if
this
we continue,
conversation not be spearheaded by the government?
It should be spearheaded by all. It should be spearheaded by all. I mean, let's face it, Eric, if you start talking about something and a government official starts talking about something, who has more, who will have more listenership? Who will believe? Who will they believe? Will they believe this government official reading off a script, or will they believe the three wise people sitting in the studio this morning?
But the three people who don't have the information, this is what we are saying, that the information needs to come from the central source, and the person who right now has that information is government. We can disseminate information that we get.
That is very true, too, and I cannot argue with you because you're a communications expert, which I am not. But what I'm saying at the end of it all, it is true that the information needs to come from the source. But until that happens, then I think what needs to happen is we just need to tell people, calm down. Whether it comes today, it comes tomorrow, it comes next week. Are you working in a hospital? No. So why are you running around in circles finding out the day when you're going to be vaccinated? You know, are you a police officer? No. So why are you even wondering? Are you over 18? Why are you under 18? Why are you even bothered? You know, so just calm down. True, tell James. Everyone that. Tell everyone, relax.
That's
the
true.
thing has come here. In the meantime, continue wearing your mask. Continue social distancing. Continue doing this, even as we wait for the government to
tell us the next steps.
I think you are a communications expert. I think that's great information and advice to give, James.
But also, I've got to remind you, James, all those things that you've said, you're quoting the government. It had to be the one that tells you first it's the healthcare workers, the security, the teachers who will be in the first phase.
You see, that is very true, Eric. The government has not been the best communicator until this time. Why should we say that they will wake up?
Why should we expect different?
Yes.
James, thank you.
So, but just to keep telling her, and then this is I said, the people with the voice, the people with the more credible voice in the eyes of the people should be the ones telling people, calm down, don't go to Kitengela, because I can tell you.
You think folks are going to go to Kitengela tonight?
I can guarantee you Kenyans have been known to do what.
James, thank you.
Thank you, and do have a good day.
You too. Anthony in Mombasa, how are you?
Good morning, Situation Room.
Good morning.
How are you?
Very well.
How is Nairobi?
Good.
Good. My concern about this revolves around security. If I flash back, we've heard of donations that came of PPEs, masks, and everything. They disappeared somewhere, and they brought fake ones. We've had a lot of things being fabricated, beer, everything, drugs, everything being fabricated. My real concern is, will a Kenyan get the real dose that came? Or will he or she get something manufactured in Kariobangi? That is my worst here, because this government, when it comes to such issues, they've been a big letdown.
As you continue talking, I'm actually going to look for that story, and I see there's a quote that was attributed to the person who was in charge of this rollout program.
Yes.
Was it in the Nation? So it's all about what they're doing to secure the. Okay. Yes. So
I think it should be secured even higher security than central bank.
So according to the chairman of this task force on the coronavirus vaccine, Willis Akwale, he says the batches will be equipped with barcodes that will help in serialization and traceability of the vaccines. Once the batches are opened, we will be able to track the vials. So what they're doing is once they arrive, they put a barcode on every batch to know that this is the batch that has arrived and this is the batch that has been dispatched, say, to Machakos. And then in Machakos, we know this is the batch that has arrived, so this is the genuine one from Kitengela. And then now once they open the batch, now that's where a bit of the trick comes in, because now the individual vials, according to Dr. Ahwale, they'll not be able to track the individual vials. But you see,
there's a number.
And notice here, Like nowadays, before you go to ask for a job somewhere, you ask for that medical certificate that you've been tested for corona.
Yes.
Where I work, it's something mandatory. And funny enough, we've found very, very many fake certificates coming in. Very many.
Fake
with
COVID,
those barcodes,
COVID
they have
negative
everything.
certificates.
Yes, they have the barcode, they have everything. They show they come from a government hospital. But go scan the barcode. You find the barcode is a product. Some you find even it's a tractor. You understand? So that thing, the security, it's my deepest concern. I hope they'll do something.
It's a valid concern.
That will protect and it will make sure we are not being injected with water or some funny liquids. And then we start getting some funny other diseases and we start blaming the vaccine.
That's a valid concern, Anthony.
Yes, good day.
Asante sana. 0719-012-600. The vaccine is set to arrive in the country later tonight. And then from there, it goes to the main vaccine warehousing, which is in Kitengela. And then the vaccination is rolled out on Friday at KNH around the country. So with this information now in place, are you confident that the government is on top of the vaccination program end to end? Are you confident? We'd like to hear from you. 0719-012-600. It's 9:45.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan? Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da! Japan? Yes! You will have to first learn Japanese. No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable. Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today.
SpiceFM, Nakuru. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Right to think the way he's thinking. He started by saying, we just saw donation of PPEs.
Anthony's actually...
They arrived, they disappeared.
Eric Anthony is being polite. If you were to ask a Kenyan response to the way our government has treated us, the citizens, in fact, he has a good sense of humor. He can see humor in the tragedy of all the catastrophe that we've been treated to. He has every reason to be doubtful. Every. You see, this is what happens with the trust deficit. You now start from the position of we don't trust you. So give us reason to trust you.
Yeah.
Whereas it should have been we trust you. And if you tell us, we will believe.
Yeah.
Here we're dealing with you. Our first reaction when you tell us is disbelief.
Yeah. And it's not unfounded.
No.
That's the unfortunate part.
We've had not only ample ground, but it's been reinforced. Just when you think, okay, surely something can't go wrong, it does.
It does. So PPEs arrive from Jack Ma, they come,
were seen.
You can't trace.
Pictures were taken. And then whoop, and then that story, you expect there to be an explanation at the end of it, and so this is what we found. That story died.
Under the carpet.
It died. Now, are you telling me that those who investigate these things didn't know where they went? They do. But there's no communication.
KEMSA, it's a story here, there, here.
The KEMSA story falls directly into the category of what you call fairy tales. I was passing by KEMSA. I happened to be. Since when is business at that scale conducted that way? In all honesty.
I supplied KEMSA and I also supplied the suppliers other suppliers who are supplying
Yes,
chemicals.
and also I actually registered this company just 1 month ago, and in complete contradiction to government requirements about pre-qualification, I was actually given a letter that
come and supply.
Yes, exactly.
It's business acumen.
And you're telling people these stories over and over and over and over again, and someone listens and says, "Goodness, in this digital age, where you can actually access our procurement laws and know what they state and what the requirements are."
Yeah.
That's it. You actually dare tell us such things.
Yeah.
Now, when it is a matter that relates to one's health and the health of the people of the country, and these are the games that are being played, then what you're communicating is that as far as we're concerned, everything is fair game.
Anything can happen, and you just have to
Yes.
kind of go with
So
it.
you sort of like wait and say, okay, so what do we think is going to happen on this one? Okay, we've heard they're coming. First of all, they've said they were coming. Okay, leave that on the side. Okay, when they do come, what happens? You would expect that the discussion would be, all right, can you tell us when it is that we might expect it here? The issue is, are they really going to arrive? Yes, the first thing.
Yes.
And when they do, how do we know that what comes out of Kitengela warehouses will be what it is that went in? Are we even sure that what went in is what you said had come in?
Say for somebody counting to the last
what
vial.
lands at JKIA is what left India.
Yes, are you sure? By the time somebody is asking and even querying, are we sure it's going to be the
It's
vaccine?
because it has happened, by
yes,
the way.
or is it just water?
There was that story. Donations. Did they leave China? Did what left China arrive at JKIA?
You know, we spoke to even our ambassador in China.
Yes.
Yes.
And they're like, this is what we did. We actually dispatched them to the plane. Now, from there, as the guys.
They landed even in Nairobi. Pictures were taken, we know. And thereafter, one story after another, after another, after another. So, our caller cannot be blamed for the position that he has taken. You honestly can't blame him.
My goodness.
You see, you know, if you look at how trust is built, you only need to look at how the mistrust that we have has matured and evolved to the point where it is, and to consider the reverse of that.
But also, it actually goes deeper than that. There's one side, the mistrust of the citizens on their government. There's the other side of the government not trusting itself. Because here is a government that is solely responsible for provision of security in the country. The government that is saying that we are the ones who are going to receive this thing at the JKIA, we are the ones who are going to escort it to Kitengela, we are the one who is going to be escorting it. But we want to spend more money to put a barcode. Because you don't trust that the person who even trusted to secure it
It's going to get it where it's
is
supposed
actually
to go.
going to secure it.
Do you know what is strange, Eric? All these products, wherever they come from, they come with barcodes. This creating new barcodes is just that budgeting corruption into the system. And even if what is being said is actually true, that is how my view will be. There is no product that comes from the manufacturer that doesn't have barcodes, my friend. They all do. How do you know this batch?
Is batch A from this plant.
So this barcode that we now want to add on to it is the barcode which has what and which does what exactly, which is contrary to the other barcode.
It's for accountability within the system here, locally, on the ground.
Now you see.
And it has a Swahili letter. We know this one is for Kenya.
Even if this was something that is necessary and it's something that is usually done, because of this history and the mistrust that we now have, it will be doubted. I personally doubt it. I'm casting aspersions. Let me not talk about other people. I am casting aspersions. Barcode. Okay.
Tutaona. Patrick in Vihiga, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
We're fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm okay. I personally welcome the idea of the arrival of the vaccine. But from my experience as a country, we are going to get very many negative stories arising from the arrival of the vaccine.
Like which ones now?
Like what the previous caller said, and what you had just discussing now a minute ago. Yeah, we have unscrupulous people who will also wish to make a kill out of the same. However, what I wish the government to do is to map all transport centers like Nairobi, Mombasa, and the border points first, because this disease is moved by people from one place to place. And every village in this country receives at least a visitor in the name of a relative from Nairobi, Mombasa, and so on. So if Nairobi is mapped first, then in Mombasa, the government can have an assessment at the end of the first phase, at least to account how many people have been vaccinated and so on. But according to the previous caller, in tandem with him, there's excitement from the government side that we have received the vaccine or we are receiving the vaccine. But there are no tangible undertakings,
plans,
as far as they're going to roll it out. Yeah, our leaders are short of reality.
Wow.
Yeah, that's my contribution.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick. Have a lovely day in Vihiga.
Yes. Yeah, same to you.
0719 012 600.
Is it enough to ask Kenyans to just kind of sit tight until you get the information? Because we know, from previous experiences on other things.
Just tell them, just chill.
Yeah, just,
Whatever comes to you will come to you.
And you will be told at the time when, because the likelihood of what will arrive today is not going, of it not reaching, we already know, it's not going to reach the general population in terms of numbers and percentages. So it's not even for the majority of people. So people should not be worried about it at all. The ones who should be getting it right now are the ones now who should now be saying, all right, so where do I go come Friday? Because from what we understand, nothing is going to happen before Friday. The first ceremonial jab will take place on Friday, and then after that, they'll get... So it's possible, CT, that between today and Friday, there'll be a rollout of information for those concerned right now who fall into the bracket of those who should be getting the vaccines. So by Friday, it's possible that, once that inaugural jab is given, everybody else will know, okay, if you're on a level 5, 6 working there already, there is this center set up, go get your jab
You're in
done.
a clinic somewhere, health center somewhere.
And if you're not, the closest one in your vicinity, we already know who you are. So we have your information collated already. Is it too much faith being put in the system?
Even, watch at the government top level. Now that thing we're talking about, who works in a health center?
They don't know.
You will see people who suddenly become, cleaners in the health sector. Somebody who, I'm a security in this health. People will emerge.
I studied first aid, therefore.
Yes. You will see that. And this is at the low level in that health facility. So who needs to be vaccinated from this health facility? You will see. Somebody puts in their nephew.
Eric,
this guy who cleans.
Eric has gotten to the heart of the matter. There'll be a person who knows how to place you. Yes. If you want to be in line to get the vaccination, you go and see so and so.
Okay, like how we're saying you can be negative or positive if you want.
But yet, it's an opportunity for the government to redeem some of that lost image. Because if they get this right, the vaccine actually does come this evening, and there's a clear rollout, and given time, we actually see the benefit. There'll be that faith restored. People will say, they actually did say this. And instead of referring to camps all the time, we'll be referring to the positive rollout of the COVID vaccine. Actually, it rolled out. Okay.
Like when we talk about the currency issue, and we say, that was a fantastic drive.
That was
very
super,
well,
super.
So opportunity for such things again to come about.
This is an opportunity because it can be done. But the moment somehow, instead of going to Kitengela, the thing ends up in Namanga.
Namanga?
Now, there'll be...
Even Namanga is far. Let's just go to Isinya.
That's
past Kitengela.
What are you people talking about? The airport itself. The airport.
The moment it takes a different route.
That's it.
Instead of this exit, it comes from the other exit.
Gone in 60 seconds.
That's it. City, we are coming to the close of the show. Tell us today's proverb and why.
He who runs after good fortune runs away from peace. It is how it is, generally speaking, the pursuit of something which, in your opinion, is actually good, can actually detract you and remove from you the pursuit of something which perhaps is more important, but perhaps not as alluring. See, something like peace is taken for granted, except for people who live in a country that is, say, war-torn, right? Like we in Kenya, we sometimes take our peace for granted, right? And in this country, more than anything else, this pursuit for money, the money pursuit centric attitude, trumps everything else that we have in this country. But at what cost? In fact, this entire discussion about the vaccine revolves around that. People wanting to get rich quickly at the expense of everything else. And with what consequences? Yes.
He who runs towards what?
He who runs after good fortune. Because people don't pursue bad fortune. They all think that what they're doing is good, and will give them good fortune. But what they're doing is they're running away from peace.
So they may end up getting to the good fortune, but unfortunately things will be different.
Unfortunately, things will be extremely different.
Asante sana for tuning into the Situation Room today. We always enjoy your company, and we enjoy you calling in and contributing and sharing with us your thoughts on various topics. Join us again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. My name is Eric Latif. We have the beautiful lady, Princess Ndu Oko.
You got it.
Right? And Ndugu Mwalimu Julius. No.